Chapter 248. Meng Yao was pissed. She was pissed. Very pissed. Wasn't this Lin way too good at causing trouble? Holding Tang Yun's hand and announcing that she was his woman in school? Did he even put her, the miss, in his eyes? Didn't he know that he was her follower and shield? If Tang Yun was his woman, then what was she? How was she supposed to use him as a shield? She couldn't just tell people that she was his concubine, could she? Are you jealous, Yao Yao? Why else would you be so angry? Yushu waved her hand in front of Meng Yao's eyes. Me? Jealous? I'm angry that he's not a good follower. He's supposed to be my shield, but he's hitting on girls. How is he supposed to be my shield now? Meng Yao, naturally, didn't think that she was being jealous. Jealous of Lin Yi? How is that possible? Oh, it's fine. You can say that you're his concubine. Yushu said. Concubine? Shu, you want me to be his concubine? Meng Yao's eyes widened in anger. Was she trying to comfort her or piss her off? What's wrong with being a concubine? I've always thought that I'd be someone's concubine in the future, and you're the main wife and I'm the concubine. Now, you're the concubine number 1, and I'm the concubine number 2. There's not much of a difference. Yushu said nonchalantly. Shu, I really don't know what to say to you. What's going on in that head of yours? Is being someone's concubine fun? Meng Yao was speechless. Her best friend's train of thought wasn't normal. She shouldn't talk to her when she was angry, or she'd get angrier and angrier until she died. Oh, it's pretty fun. Yushu flipped through the English book in front of her, bored. Yao Yao, there's a test in the afternoon. I'm going to study first. Meng Yao only remembered that there was an English test after Yushu's reminder. She had no choice but to take out her book, but she'd made up her mind to talk to Lin Yi. If he kept this up, she'd cut his salary. Meng Yao realized, tragically, that the only thing she could threaten Lin Yi with was his pay. There didn't seem to be anything else that could restrain him. After school, Meng Yao received a text that made her even angrier. Lin Yi texted her, saying that he had something to do tonight and would be home later. This pissed Meng Yao off. Shu, look at this Lin Yi guy. He's coming back a little late at night? Do you think he went on a date with Tang Yun? It should be. Yao sis. Yushu wanted to see the world in chaos. Meng Yao gritted her teeth as she replied to Lin Yi. If you dare come back late, I'll deduct a month's salary from you. Lin Yi looked at the message in his hand and felt a headache coming on. A month's salary would be deducted for one night out? Isn't this a little too ridiculous? Lin Yi smiled bitterly as he dialed Meng Yao's number. What's up? Meng Yao coldly picked up the phone. Miss, I really have something to do tonight. Lin Yi didn't know what was going on with Meng Yao. What is it? A date with Tang Yun? Meng Yao retorted. Lin Yi, can you mind your image? You're my shield. Even if you want to chase girls, can't you do it in private? You've caused a storm in the city. Everyone knows about you and Tang Yun. How can I use you as a shield? Lin Yi froze for a moment before he realized that the miss was angry because of this. No wonder she was so angry. Yao Yao, I'm not going on a date tonight. I'm going to help a friend. Lin Yi explained. What friend? What kind of help? Meng Yao asked. It's that Sun Jingyi that I met at the bar the other day. She asked me to do something for her. She wants to pay me. Lin Yi purposely added the word pay to prevent Meng Yao from thinking that he was flirting with other girls. I don't care if you pay me or not, as long as they don't come looking for you. Meng Yao didn't want Lin Yi to go looking for Sun Jingyi, but she couldn't find a reason to stop him. She didn't know why she was angry. Maybe it was because she was afraid that those girls would come looking for her and affect her plan? That must be it. As long as he didn't bring those girls to school, he could do whatever he wanted. Meng Yao hung up the phone after she finished talking. Lin Yi shook his head. Did she let him go or not? Was his salary still going to be deducted? Lin Yi went to the food street behind the school and bumped into Tang Yun. Tang Yun was helping her mother after school. There was Kang Xiaobo and Lu Xinwen at the hospital. Tang Yun didn't need her help. Tang Yun jumped when she saw Lin Yi following her. She was embarrassed and didn't know what to do. However, there was a hint of joy in her heart. What happened today had spread throughout the school. But for some reason, Tang Yun wasn't as angry as she was when the love letter incident happened. Last time was a rumor, but this time, it was a fact. Tang Yun thought that it was probably like that, But was it really like that? Tang Yun shook her head. In her heart, she didn't reject Linny anymore. On the contrary, when she was with him, she felt an inexplicable excitement and throbbing. Was she really in love at such a young age? You, what are you doing here? Tang Yun lowered her head. She didn't dare to look at Linny. I'm waiting for a friend. She needs my help. Linny paused. So I came to see you on the way. Tang Yun was a bit disappointed when she heard the first half of Lin Yi's sentence. So he didn't come to see her. But when she heard the second half, it was as if she had eaten honey. It was a sweet feeling, oh? Tang Yun blushed. She felt complicated. Did she fall for him just like that? Don't. Your family's business is pretty busy. If you can't do it, you should hire a helper, Linny said as he looked at Mrs. Tang's barbecue stand. It was already surrounded by students. Yeah. Mom said that if we keep this busy, we'll hire someone, Tang Yun said. Tang Yun was grateful to Lin Yi. If it wasn't for him, her family's business wouldn't be this popular. But thinking about their relationship, was this a way to repay him? Tang Yun didn't dare think about it anymore. Her heart was getting more and more confused. I'll go help my mom first. With that, Tang Yun turned around and left, ignoring Lin Yi. Looking at Tang Yun's back, Lin Yi fell into a daze for a moment. This kind of life was great. But as soon as he closed his eyes, that pair of resentful eyes pierced into Lin Yi's heart again. Chapter 249. Is there something wrong with your brain? Lin Yi had been waiting for 10 minutes when Sun Jingyi arrived. I thought you weren't coming, so I was getting ready to go home. Lin Yi lazily opened the car door and got in. There was a traffic jam on the way, and it's rush hour. Sun Jingyi said apologetically. Little hubby, let's go get something to eat first? Who's your hubby? Lin Yi frowned. Is there something wrong with your brain? Don't call me that. Did I agree to it? Why was this girl so clingy? It was fine if Meng Yao heard it, she'd just throw a tantrum. But if Tang Yun heard it, she'd think that something was wrong with him. The worst part was that he could do something with Sun Jingyi, since Lin Yi wasn't someone who was afraid of trouble. The problem was that there was nothing going on between him and Sun Jingyi. Wouldn't it be unfair if he were to carry the title of Sun Jingyi's hubby? He'd have to help her solve the problem for free. I'm your lover now. Why aren't you going to admit it? Sun Jingyi giggled. You said it yourself. A gentleman keeps his word. Lin Yi shut his mouth. He was the one who'd said it. And so he'd kept his promise to help Jingyi deal with the problem. Although, keeping his promise was one thing, it was normal for him to grumble a little. I'll admit it, but don't call me hubby from now on, it makes me nervous. Nothing good will come out of it. Lin Yi shrugged. Sure, I'll call you that when something good happens, Sun Jingyi said, taking advantage of the situation. Whatever. Lin Yi didn't want to say anything, to be honest. Sun Jingyi was really pretty. If it weren't so troublesome, Lin Yi would have been willing to flirt with her, but she was a pain in the ass. Let's skip the meal. Where are we going to steal the information? Let's get this over with. Going now might be a little troublesome. Jingyi looked at the time on the dashboard. According to the people I sent to keep an eye on them, Tong Tian from the Tong Tian Trading Company brought his mistress back to his place. They're probably in the middle of it right now, so it's not a good idea for you to make a move. I'd like to wait until they're asleep before you make your move. It's nothing, Lin Yi said indifferently. I'm stealing, not you. Hurry up, I have something to do tonight. All right. Since Lin Yi had said so, Sun Jingyi didn't say anything else. She drove to Zhang Tongtian's residence. It had to be said that the name Zhang Tongtian was very impressive. It was as if his hands and eyes were everywhere. Zhang Tongtian lived in a high-end villa district. Every house had its own independent villa. It could be seen that Zhang Tongtian's company was indeed very profitable. People who did business usually had some connections. If they didn't, they wouldn't be able to do it. When Sun Jingyi drove into the community, the security guard let her go without much questioning. She was driving a red Audi A4L. Although it wasn't a particularly luxurious car, it was a favorite of many girls, and there were many of them in the community. She stopped near a 3-story villa. Sun Jingyi pointed to the villa and said, "It's there. The video is saved in a silver DV, look for it. It should be in his handbag. He is also very careful about this kind of thing. He won't let others keep it." Lin Yi nodded and got out of the car. Wait for me here. How do you get in? Sun Jingyi was about to ask Linny how to get inside the wall of the villa, but she saw that Linny had already climbed over the wall and entered the villa. Could it be that he was really a great thief? Sun Jingyi blinked. This man surprised her more and more. Not only was he good at martial arts, but he was also very agile. Why would such a person come to Songshan? Sun Jingyi was guessing how Lin Yi would enter the villa. She saw that Lin Yi had already climbed the wall of the villa like a spider and entered the villa from an open window on the second floor. Sun Jingyi couldn't believe it. He climbed in just like that? In fact, this was a piece of cake for Lin Yi. Heibao could jump directly to the second floor. So could Lin Yi. However, Lin Yi didn't want to expose too much of his strength in front of Sun Jingyi. So, he chose to climb up. This way, people who were good at martial arts could do it. This was the living room on the second floor. The lights were on in the living room, but there was no one there. Not far from the left, there was a bedroom with a half-open door. There were sounds of a man and a woman having sex. Linny didn't pay attention to them for now. He began to look for the DV camera that Sun Jingyi mentioned. However, Lin Yi didn't casually look through it. Instead, he looked around the living room. Maybe it was because Zhang Tongtian was in a hurry to hug his mistress after returning home. His clothes and handbag were all thrown on the sofa in the corner of the living room. Or maybe he didn't even think that someone would climb into the living room at this time. It was only 7 o'clock at night. It wasn't the time for thieves to appear. Lin Yi didn't have to rummage around much before pulling out a small silver DV from the bag on the sofa. It was an HD one too. Turning off the audio, Lin Yi turned on the DV. Sure enough, the picture showed a coffee shop. A man was handing a bank card to another man and saying something. The picture was very clear. It should be at a table not far away, but it didn't attract the attention of these two people. Presumably, these two people wouldn't have thought that their numerous transactions would be recorded. Lin Yi turned off the DV, pulled out the memory card, and stuffed it into his pocket. He was about to put the DV back in his handbag and leave when he suddenly found that there was a spare memory card in his handbag. Was there a backup? Lin Yi inserted the spare memory card into the DV, but found that he had overestimated Zhang Tongtian's IQ. This memory card was blank, and there was no information in it. It should have been given to him by the seller when he bought the DV. Zhang Tongtian didn't care about it and put it in his bag. However, now that he had a blank memory card, Lin Yi's wicked idea popped up again. Lin Yi took the DV to the door of Zhang Tongtian's room and filmed the room for a while. Lin Yi didn't dare to compliment Zhang Tongtian's figure, but his lover wasn't bad. It was just that Lin Yi wasn't interested in such a woman. After recording a video of Zhang Tongtian, Lin Yi put the DV into Zhang Tongtian's handbag and disappeared from the window on the second floor. Done? So fast? Sun Jingyi didn't expect Lin Yi to come out so quickly. She was a little surprised. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. This wasn't challenging at all. It was already slow enough. If it weren't for the fact that he had nothing better to do, he would have come out a long time ago after filming Zhang Tongtian with his DV. Chapter 250. Plot. Sun Jingyi was speechless. You still have time to play with his camcorder? Aren't you afraid of being found out? Are you sure it's this memory card? Sun Jingyi asked worriedly. I'm sure. Lin Yi said lazily. It was recorded in a coffee shop. I've already checked it. Sun Jingyi relaxed after hearing Lin Yi's words. Thank you, little hubby. Big sis will give you a kiss as a reward. With that, Sun Jingyi made a pouting expression and feigned a kiss in the air. Smack! Sun Jingyi was taken aback. She'd clearly feigned a kiss in the air. So how did she end up kissing something? She didn't know when Lin Yi had moved his face closer. You. Sun Jingyi cursed at Lin Yi's shamelessness inwardly. She'd only feigned a kiss, and he'd taken the initiative to move closer. What about me? Lin Yi touched the spot on his face where Sun Jingyi had kissed him, a wicked smile on his face. Don't think that I'm harmless in the future. I'll respond appropriately if you try to flirt with me again. Lin Yi was getting a little pissed off by Sun Jingyi. You can't keep bringing up that half-lover thing again and again, can you? If you're so willing to talk about it, then fine. I'll fulfill your wish. It's half-lover, after all. There's no special boundary for that half. Even if we don't sleep together, a kiss should be fine, right? You. Sun Jingyi didn't know what to say. It was true that she'd only teased Linny because he didn't look that old and didn't think he was a match for her. If it were any other dangerous man, Sun Jingyi wouldn't have played these childish tricks. She'd only get herself into trouble. According to Jingyi's estimations, Lin Yi was a little boy who hadn't experienced the world of worldly affairs. He was a little strong, but he must have been under his master's closed-door training. He didn't know much about the outside world, and so Jingyi was confident that she could use her beauty to charm Lin Yi into working for her. But she hadn't expected Lin Yi to make the first move. Just when Sun Jingyi was about to say something, Lin Yi's next move caught her off guard. Lin Yi suddenly reached out and pinched Sun Jingyi's beautiful jaw. It was a frivolous and slightly insulting gesture. It was like something a bully would do to a girl in a drama. She'd never been treated in such a manner before. Sun Jingyi was a little nervous, even afraid. What do you want to do? Sun Jingyi was a little panicked. Nothing good would come out of this kind of action. Half-lover? I'll come and collect this revenge any time. Lin Yi let go of his hand at this moment. Think carefully before you ask me to do something next time. I'll continue to collect payment. At that time, half-lover will become the whole lover. If Lin Yi didn't teach her a lesson, this girl would open a dye shop. Lin Yi didn't bother with her before, but this girl was a little too much. Lin Yi couldn't bear it anymore. He could put up with Ming Yao and Yushu at home, because it was his job, but Jingyi, a complete stranger, did this girl really think that she was that attractive? Did she really think that she was invincible? Sun Jingyi felt wronged. She'd never been humiliated like this before. Even Wu Taizhou didn't dare to say some frivolous words. Although Zhang Tongtian coveted him, he wouldn't use force. For this kind of thing, coercion and temptation were one thing, but using force was another. No matter how powerful Zhang Tongtian was, he didn't want to be imprisoned. Zhang Tongtian didn't want to be imprisoned. However, this guy, Lin Yi, actually stole her first kiss. Although it wasn't on his mouth, it was still on his face. This made Sun Jingyi feel wronged. However, even if Sun Jingyi felt wronged, she could only bear it silently. She knew very well that all of this was caused by herself. This was the logic of playing with fire. Seeing that Sun Jingyi had finally settled down, Lin Yi couldn't be bothered with her anymore. It'd be best if she didn't come looking for him in the future. He was very busy, and every time she asked him to do some low-tech things, Lin Yi always felt that it was a little unfair to his martial arts. He'd accept it if Sun Jingyi really was his wife. The problem was that she wasn't, and she was still trying to play tricks on him. Lin Yi decided to help her this time out of respect for their acquaintance, but the next time would depend on her sincerity. Naturally, Lin Yi wouldn't let Sun Jingyi send him to the villa area. Instead, he sent him to a bus stop near the villa area. Sun Jingyi gritted her teeth, looked at Lin Yi angrily, and drove away. Dad, Peng Zhan's been retracting his power these days. This isn't good for us. A young man with glasses said carefully in front of a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man was Jin Gubong, Fabai's brother-in-law. He was the biggest shareholder of Peng Zhan Industries after Peng Zhan. This young man was his son and secretary, Jin Maosheng. I know, Zhang Yuchu got me a bunch of trash. Otherwise, the company would have lost at least 200 million. Peng Zhan was the one who signed the contract, and no matter what, his reputation in the board of directors is at rock bottom. Jin Gubong said, a little hatefully. They don't even know how to kidnap a girl. I don't know if these people eat shit or not. They can't even handle a small bodyguard. Yeah, but that Lin Yi bastard's really despicable, too. I'd bribed the electrician from the company to create an accident for Peng Zhan in the parking lot, so he'd end up in the hospital for a while. But that Lin Yi ruined it all. Mao Sheng said hatefully, You're still talking about it? Who told you to act so recklessly? If something happens to Peng Zhan in the company, the police's first suspect would be an insider. Gubong glared at his son. Do you have a brain? How could you do something so reckless? Dad, that electrician's gone forever. Mao Sheng explained carefully. Humph, I'm not saying you're wrong, but don't do it in the company next time. Gubong humphed coldly. By the way, did that cousin of yours get Ming Yao or not? I don't think so. Mao Sheng said. Dad, I don't think Uncle has any good intentions. If Pinliang really is with Ming Yao, we'll be able to control Peng Zhan Industries in a roundabout way, But wouldn't Uncle's family be taking advantage of that too? He's an outsider, after all. There's no guarantee he won't betray us in the future. Chapter 251. Something happens to her. Looks like we need to hurry up. Give Zhang Yuzhou a call and tell him to do whatever it takes to cause some trouble. It'd be best if something happens to that Ming Yao girl, so that Peng Zhan won't be able to focus on the company. Give me some time, and I'm confident that I'll be able to take control of the company and get the other shareholders to support me, Gubong said after some thought. He'd made up his mind this time. Peng Zhan was starting to get suspicious and was starting to put his guard up against him. The company's power was shrinking as well, and it wouldn't be good for Gubong if this continued. All right, Dad. I'll contact Zhang Yuzhou right away and have him do something. Mao Sheng nodded. Be careful of that, Linny. That kid's ruined our plans twice already. Gubong reminded. We need to think of a way to get the best of both worlds this time. Mao Sheng was thinking of a way to make Ming Yao get into an accident. He was even more vicious than his father, and he liked using accidents to solve problems. Just like that time when the chandelier fell from the parking lot of Peng Zhan Industries, he'd wanted to use accidents to get rid of Peng Zhan. The electrician who'd done the job had been electrocuted after that. Mao Sheng was a ruthless man, and as for kidnapping Ming Yao, he hadn't approved of it in the first place. As far as he was concerned, killing Ming Yao would throw Peng Zhan into chaos, and he wouldn't be able to focus on managing the company at all. House Jean would be able to take over the chairman's position in one fell swoop. He walked out of his father's room and called Zhang Yuzhou's number. This Zhang Yuzhou was Zihua's underling, and Mao Sheng wanted to talk to Zihua directly, but he knew that he didn't have the right to do so. House Jean wasn't enough to enter the eyes of the person behind Zihua. Everything he was doing now was just to pave the way for Master Bing's company to expand in Songshan after House Jean took control of Peng Zhan Industries. Otherwise, that person wouldn't even care about their own power struggles. The price House Jean had to pay for taking control of the company was to give their real estate business to Master Bing, the bastard son of that person. Peng Zhan Industries was involved in trade, real estate, department stores, hotels, entertainment, and clothing manufacturing. Although it would be a loss to cede the real estate business, it was nothing compared to becoming the real boss of Peng Zhan Industries. He was the son of a shareholder of Peng Zhan Industries, and yet he was nothing in that person's eyes. Mao Sheng felt a wave of sadness wash over him. Was that house really that strong? Young Master Jean, what's the matter? Yuchu was quite pissed at the Jean father-son duo. Their last mission had failed entirely because Gubong hadn't investigated the people around Ming Yao, resulting in such a huge loss. And now they were saying that their men weren't good enough? This pissed Yuchu off. He was Zihua Bro's man, after all, and he wasn't someone Gubong could scold as he pleased. Mao Sheng was getting a little pissed off at Yuchu's voice. It wasn't like they weren't paying a price for it. They'd even given away the company's real estate business. That was a branch company worth 300 to 400 million. If he wanted to set up a new branch company, the price he had to pay was not small. How could the price of transferring the entire branch company be small? Mr. Zhang, I hope that you can understand that we are in a cooperative relationship, not a subordinate relationship. If this is done well, Master Bing will get what he wants, and so will I. Mao Sheng wasn't a pushover, after all. He was a lot tougher than his father, and he'd been the one who'd instigated this whole usurpation. But if it fails, I won't lose anything, but we'll keep it the way it is now. House Jean is still a shareholder of Peng Zhan Industries, but will Master Bing let you go? Yuchu's heart skipped a beat. Why hadn't he thought of this before? He'd been a little annoyed at House Jean for blaming him for everything, but now that he thought about it, he was doing something for Master Bing. Would Master Bing mistreat him if he did well? But on the other hand, would Master Bing let him go if he didn't? Yuchu broke out in a cold sweat at the thought. Jambro, look at what you're saying. We're brothers. We're doing this for the common good. Don't worry. I'll do my best. Mao Sheng smiled coldly inwardly. You're just dragging this out if I don't scare you. You're not even doing your best, he said with a smile. Yuchu bro, what are you talking about? That old fox Peng Zhan's starting to get suspicious after what happened last time, and he's been shrinking the company's power. My father's in a very passive position. Then, what should we do now? Yuchu thought. I can't interfere with your company's business, so why are you telling me this? If something happens to Peng Zhan's daughter, he probably won't be in the mood to manage the company anymore, will he? Mao Sheng said faintly. Man, the sky's the limit. Isn't that right, Yuchu bro? Yuchu paused. Knowing that Mao Sheng was going to play hard, he was a desperado. After all, how many of Sihua bro's underlings weren't? Don't worry, Jean bro. I know what to do. It won't be long before the bad news gets out. Yuchu said straightforwardly. Killing someone by accident was actually a lot easier than kidnapping. That's it then. I'll wait for the news. Mao Sheng said as he hung up. Yuchu wouldn't know what was going on if he didn't give him a heads up. Of course, Yuchu wasn't going to act rashly after agreeing to Mao Sheng's request. He had to ask Sihua first. Sihua bro, it's Lil Yuchu. Yuchu said as he dialed up Sihua's number. Lil Yuchu, why are you calling at this hour? Don't you know I'm sleeping? Sihua slept during the day and worked at night. This was something all his lackeys knew. He only turned his phone on during the day because he didn't want his boss to come looking for him. Sihua bro, Jean Maosheng's calling. He wants me to kill that Mingyao girl. Yuchu said, relaying Maosheng's message to Sihua. Oh, I'll leave that to you. Don't get into a head-on confrontation. There's a master around that girl. Just cause an accident. Sihua said offhandedly. After all, a human life was nothing to him. Also, Master Bing's almost here. We need to hurry up. Pengzhan Industries Real Estate Company is our gift to Master Bing. Yes, Sihua bro. I'll do it then. With Sihua's confirmation, Yuchu didn't have to worry about anything anymore. As far as Yuchu was concerned, that Lin Yi by Meng Yao's side didn't matter how strong he was. As long as they didn't get into a head-on confrontation, Meng Yao could be killed with some dirty tricks. Chapter 252. Falling down, Lin Yi went back to the villa to find Meng Yao and Yushu sitting in the living room, not watching TV. It was the same as the day they taught him a lesson. Shield bro, Yao Yao's getting jealous. Be careful. Yushu was sitting on the sofa, eating an orange. She called out to him as he walked in. Shu. Meng Yao glared at Yushu. What are you talking about? What do you mean I'm jealous? Oh, Yao Yao's angry. Shield bro, good luck then. I'll stop talking. Yushu shut her mouth as if she hadn't said anything. Shu you. Meng Yao had wanted to teach Linny a lesson at first, but Yushu's interruption made her lose the mood. She glared at Yushu. Shu, did you fall in love with Lin Yi after confessing your feelings to him? Why else would you cover for him? Oh, Yao Yao, do you want me to fall in love with him? Yushu said nonchalantly as she ate a piece of orange. You and I are going to marry the same man anyway. Meng Yao really wanted to stand up and kick Yushu into space. She was getting further and further away from the topic. She looked at Lin Yi's nonchalant face, and Meng Yao's interest waned. He could do whatever he wanted. What did it have to do with her? He could flirt with girls or fool around. As long as he didn't interfere with her business and Pin Liang didn't harass her, he'd done his job. Meng Yao waved her hand, annoyed. Linny, just pay attention to your image in school. I don't care what happens between you and Tang Yun. Just don't let Pin Liang harass me. Oh, don't worry about that. That guy can't even take care of himself. He won't harass you. Linny nodded. All right, it's fine. But you have to tell me before you go out next time. Otherwise, I won't be able to find you if I need you. Meng Yao didn't know what was wrong with her. Did she care that Lin Yi was with another girl? Or did she care that he wasn't professional enough to be her follower? Okay. Lin Yi nodded without thinking. The relationship between Lin Yi and Meng Yao was much more harmonious now, and Lin Yi cherished this mission. He didn't know what it was, but since this mission was enough to feed him for the rest of his life, and his old man allowed him to settle down in Songshan, no matter what, Lin Yi would do his best to complete this mission. I'll leave you to your work then. Shu and I are going to watch the concert. There's food in the kitchen. We've already eaten. You can eat if you want. Meng Yao waved at Lin Yi, signaling him to leave. Yao Yao sis, didn't you say you were angry and wanted to go bungee jumping this weekend? Why'd you stop talking about pushing Shield Bro down the valley? Yushu interjected. Shu. Meng Yao was just saying it out of anger. There was no way she'd push Linny down the valley. That'd be murder, wouldn't it? She glared at Yushu. What's in that head of yours? I was just saying it out of anger. How could you take it seriously? I want to go bungee jumping, too. Maybe we won't push Shield Bro down the valley. We'll just go bungee jumping? Yushu looked at Meng Yao. Ah. Linny shook his head. Yushu was a top-class clown. After all, with her around, the war in this house would never happen. However, Lin Yi didn't expect Meng Yao to be so angry that she wanted to push him down the valley. Meng Yao was a little embarrassed by Yushu's words. She coughed. Lin Yi, don't listen to Shu. I didn't mean to push you. Oh, it's fine if you push me a little. Lin Yi thought to himself. The Mrs. Pushing wasn't bad either. What did you say? Meng Yao didn't hear it clearly. Nothing. Lin Yi didn't dare repeat himself. Yao Yao. Shield Bro said that he wants you to push him down. Yushu heard it clearly, but her words were always powerful. Wha? Meng Yao blinked, blushing as she understood what Yushu meant by push him down. It wasn't like she didn't interact with the outside world, and even a young girl would know what that word meant. What did you say, Linny? I only said it's fine if I push him a little. Linny sweated. That was what he meant, but he didn't say it like that. With my skills, I won't die even if I push him down. Meng Yao frowned as she thought about what Linny said. He did say something like, it's fine, not push him down. She turned to Yushu. Shu. Oh. Yushu got up from the sofa, wanting to run away, but her legs were numb from standing cross-legged the whole time. She lost her balance and fell off the sofa. Shu. Linny. Meng Yao was startled. She couldn't care less about scolding Yushu anymore. She wanted to pull her up, but she was too slow. Yushu fell to the ground. Meng Yao subconsciously wanted Lin Yi to save her. Oh. Linny reached out and caught Yushu. Shu. Don't say that word. There's a man here. Meng Yao glared at Yushu. If I don't let him go, am I supposed to let him keep touching you? But, Yushu said. She couldn't just throw her to the ground. But what? You got touched by that Linny bastard. Why aren't you going after him? Why are you talking about me? Meng Yao looked at Yushu. Chapter 253. Could it be that the fake had become real? Oh, Yao Yao. You're saying that you want him to take responsibility for me? Yushu blinked, confused. Meng Yao didn't know what to say. Aren't you going to get your brother to beat him up? Oh, Shield Bro already touched me once when he pulled me out from the railing. Yushu said after some thought. Yao Yao, maybe we should put this on the back burner for now. We won't bother him if he's obedient in the future. Yeah, that's a good idea. Meng Yao, naturally, agreed. It was Shu who was touched, not her. If Shu didn't mind, what did she have to mind? I saved you twice. Linny wasn't too happy about it. He'd saved Yushu twice already, and this girl still wanted to bother him? Oh, forget it then. We'll call it even then. But Shield Bro, why don't you come bungee jumping with us this weekend? I haven't done it before. You can come with us. Yushu didn't mind at all. She had a handle on Linny, so it didn't really matter anymore. No problem. Linny wanted to reject her at first, but he'd touched Yushu anymore. He'd flirted with the Miss Best Friend right in front of her. He'd be lucky if Meng Yao didn't come after him. Bungee jumping was nothing to him. Meng Yao didn't know what Yushu was thinking. She waited until Linny went to eat before whispering to her. Shu, do you really like Linny now? No. Yushu mumbled as she chewed on her orange. No? You let him touch you? Meng Yao frowned as she sighed inwardly. Her best friend was most likely under Lin Yi's spell. Otherwise, why wouldn't she react to his touch? He didn't do it on purpose. Yushu found it strange as well. She didn't seem to dislike Shield Bro at all. She didn't want to beat him up to vent her anger after being touched. Instead, she was more interested in studying bungee jumping, as if being touched wasn't that important. Meng Yao didn't know what to say. This bestie of hers. Could it be that she'd fallen for Lin Yi after confessing to Linny once? Did the two of them turn their act into reality? Just like before, Zhang Tongtian crossed his legs and dialed Sun Jingyi's number as if victory was already in his grasp. Hello? Is it Miss Sun? From Zhang Tongtian's point of view, Sun Jingyi was the meat in his mouth. Unless Sun Jingyi didn't want to continue doing business in Songshan, her reputation would definitely be ruined this time. With Zhang Tongtian's connections in Songshan, he was familiar with many reporters. As long as this video was leaked, Sun Jingyi's company would be done for. Not only would they face punishment from the relevant departments, but most importantly, no one would do business with their company in the future. Who would want to do business with an unsafe company like this? Purchasing managers in those companies were all lucrative jobs. Everyone knew what was going on. They would get a commission if they did business with other companies. So why would they go to a company like Sun Jingyi? However, Zhang Tongtian didn't know about Sun Jingyi's background. In fact, Sun Jingyi came to Songshan alone not because she wanted to rely on her family's background, but because she wanted to leave House Sun. Sun Jingyi didn't want to think about the Sun's faces at all. They were a family, but they were fighting to the death for her grandpa's assets. Her grandpa wasn't even dead yet, and who knew what would happen when he passed away? Sun Jingyi's parents passed away early, and she grew up with her grandpa. Just because she was a little closer to her grandpa, the other sons saw her as the public enemy #1, trying to take away the family's property. It made Sun Jingyi very uncomfortable, and she had no choice but to leave the city and make her own way. Manager Zhang, what's the matter? Sun Jingyi got the memory card, so she naturally wouldn't be afraid of Zhang Tongtian anymore. She picked up the phone, and she wasn't as nervous as before. Miss Sun, have you forgotten? Today, I'm going to hold a small press conference to expose the inside story of some companies in the industry that don't follow the rules of business, disrupt the order of the industry, and cause unhealthy practices. Zhang Tongtian said, Miss Sun, would you be interested in attending? Tongtian smiled coldly inwardly. Jingyi, this is your last chance. You better know what's good for you, or I'll leak this video to the press conference and ruin your company's reputation. Tongtian thought. Oh, why wouldn't I go if Mr. Zhang invited me? Jingyi said faintly. What time and where? Linny asked. At 9:00 this morning, in the conference room of my company. I think it's better for Miss Sun to come earlier and discuss the contents of the press conference with me. Zhang Tongtian hinted. I'm sorry, I'm afraid I have something to do here. I can't go in advance. It's good enough that I'm on time. Sun Jingyi was puzzled. Didn't Zhang Tongtian find that the memory card had been lost? Why did he still look like he had one? Did he have a backup? No. Sun Jingyi heard that Zhang Tongtian was a computer illiterate, so she dared to let Lin Yi take the risk to steal the memory card. Because Zhang Tongtian didn't know how to use a computer or a camera at all. This video was recorded by a private detective. After watching it, he had put it in his handbag. Sun Jingyi's guess was right. To be on the safe side, Zhang Tongtian took a look at the video recorder this morning. When he found that the memory card was still on it, he was relieved. He didn't know how to play with such a sophisticated thing, so he didn't open it to see what was going on. Zhang Tongtian was a vulgar person, and he was only good at interpersonal relationships. So although the company sold computers, he couldn't even find the power button of the computer. Well, I hope Miss Sun won't regret it. Zhang Tongtian snorted coldly and hung up the phone. He thought to himself, bitch, don't be so shameless. I'll make you cry later. At 9:00, Sun Jingyi appeared in Zhang Tongtian's conference room late. Zhang Tongtian's face was very bad, and there was a trace of ruthlessness in his eyes. This woman could really keep her cool, but he didn't know if she would still be so calm after watching the video. Zhang Tongtian had made up his mind. Since Sun Jingyi didn't know how to appreciate his kindness, he could only let her taste the price of rejecting him. Miss Sun, you're very late. Zhang Tongtian nodded to Sun Jingyi indifferently. Mr. Zhang, what does it matter if I come early or late for your company's press conference? Sun Jingyi said lightly. Well, Miss Sun, please take a seat. Zhang Tongtian sneered and sat on the rostrum of the conference room. Chapter 254. Who will be ruined? Chapter 254. Who will be ruined? But since Sun Jingyi hadn't gone back on her words, Zhang Tongtian didn't mind ruining her reputation. Zhang Tongtian cleared his throat and said, Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my small press conference. Everyone here is either a journalist friend or a friend of the same profession. Let's skip the pleasantries and get straight to the point. Director Zhang, we're all ready. A reporter who knew the news pointed the camera at the big screen in the conference room. All right, I'll say it then. Zhang Tongtian nodded. Today, I'm going to expose a scum in the industry. This person has ruined the morals of our industry and is leading the way in the wrong direction. What do you think we should do with someone like this? Get rid of the black sheep. How can someone like this be a traitor? One of the industry insiders stood up and said, Yes, Director Zhang. Hurry up and expose it. We're all waiting. We want to see who this person is. How can someone who's worse than pigs and dogs be a traitor? Another person stood up and raised his arms. Actually, there were only a few people who spoke. They'd all gotten a hint from Zhang Tongtian. Most of them were just here to watch the show and wouldn't get involved. All right, Secretary Li, go and play this video. Zhang Tongtian handed the video recorder to his secretary. This was the first time he'd given the camera to his secretary. Before this, he wouldn't let anyone touch it. Firstly, Zhang Tongtian was afraid that the video would be leaked out too early. If that happened, it would lose its effect as a threat to Sun Jingyi. If it was leaked out, Sun Jingyi wouldn't agree to his request. Secondly, he didn't trust the people around him. He was afraid that Sun Jingyi would bribe the people around her to delete the video. If that happened, he'd have hired a private detective to record the video for nothing. That was why Zhang Tongtian took out the camera now. Everyone, please watch the video. Zhang Tongtian waited for Secretary Li to connect the camera to the big TV in the conference room, then gestured for everyone to watch. Suddenly, the sound of a man and a woman moaning came from the TV. Many TVs played the sound first before the image, and the image was always a second later than the sound. Therefore, everyone was very curious. What kind of video was this? Zhang Tongtian was also very puzzled. When he watched this video, there didn't seem to be such a sound. While everyone was wondering, two naked figures appeared on the TV screen. The man was fat, and the woman was voluptuous. However, why did the man look so familiar? Everyone's eyes fell on Zhang Tongtian, because the male lead of the video was Zhang Tongtian himself. Sun Jingyi secretly spat and lowered her head. She was a little afraid to look at the picture on the TV, but she was very happy in her heart. The date of the video on the TV was last night, just when Linny went to steal the memory card. Linny said that he played with the camera for a while, so this must have been recorded by Lin Yi. Although she was a little annoyed with Lin Yi's sudden overbearingness yesterday, Sun Jingyi was undoubtedly very refreshed today. He fiercely vented the resentment in his chest. Zhang Tongtian had lost a lot of face today. He was stunned for a while like everyone else, and then his face turned red. Secretary Li? What is this? What a mess. What did you put there? Mr. Zhang, this is the camera you gave me. I connected it directly to the TV. Secretary Li looked innocent. Hee. Ha. There was a burst of snickering in the conference room. Those reporters who had a relationship with Zhang Tongtian were confused, but those who had no relationship with him were excited. This was a big tidbit of news. Turn it off. Turn it off. Zhang Tongtian shouted at Secretary Li angrily. Although Secretary Li felt wronged, he had to quickly turn off the camera and TV. What's going on? What's going on? How did it become like this? Zhang Tongtian's face was gloomy and unhappy. Mr. Zhang, is this your so-called black sheep? Sun Jingyi sneered and stood up. You asked us to come here just to watch you perform? With all due respect, I'm sorry, but I have no interest in your indecent video. Goodbye. After that, Sun Jingyi turned around and walked out of the conference room. There was no need to stay here any longer. As for the other people in the same industry, they were too embarrassed to stay any longer. They didn't know what Zhang Tongtian was up to. He had invited everyone here to watch an indecent video of this fat pig. He really had nothing better to do. Was this guy an exhibitionist? Was it to show off his manly charm? Zhang Tongtian looked at the press conference with a gloomy face. He was very unhappy, but there was nothing he could do. He vaguely felt that something was wrong, but he didn't know what was wrong. He didn't understand why the video of Sun Jingyi's staff bribing became an indecent video of himself and his lover. It must be Sun Jingyi. It must be this woman. Although he didn't know what method Sun Jingyi used, his intuition told him that Sun Jingyi definitely had something to do with this. Otherwise, why would Sun Jingyi be so calm? And why did she look like she didn't care? Sun Jingyi, Zhang Tongtian, will never let you go. Zhang Tongtian clenched his fists tightly. Songshan's first high grade 12 class 5. Linny yawned lazily. In fact, Linny didn't sleep well last night. It was the first time he touched a girl's chest, and it was always unforgettable. He thought that the unforgettable girl would be Tang Yun, but he didn't think that it would be Yu Shu. Although it was an emergency and he accidentally touched it, it still made Lin Yi's heart throb. To be honest, if Yu Shu wasn't Meng Yao's best friend, Lin Yi might have made a move on her. But the problem was it that easy to make a move on the Mrs. Best Friend? Boss, what's wrong? Why do you look so tired? Kong Xiaobo wanted to talk to Lin Yi about Xiaofan, but seeing Lin Yi's listless face, he didn't know if he should say it or not. Xiaobo, if you have something to say, just say it. I'm fine. Lin Yi shook his head. In fact, if Lin Yi wanted to get rid of his fatigue, he only needed to circulate the art of dragon mastery in his body. It was just that Lin Yi wasn't just tired, he wasn't in the mood. Chapter 255. Request for backup. Boss, I think that bastard Kong Xiaoming is still in Fawn's heart. Xiaobo's fists were clenched tightly as he spoke, his face filled with anger. HM? What do you mean? Lin Yi was startled. Kong Ming was already so heartless, and yet Xiaofan was still so loyal to him? Are you kidding me? Sigh, boss, you don't know, but Xiaofan's expression changed when I mentioned Kong Ming to her. Kong Xiaobo sighed. I think she wants to forget Kong Ming, but she can't. He's her first man after all, so it's normal for her to remember him. But why doesn't Xiaofan know about Kong Ming's disgusting face? She knows, Lin Yi said, but as you said, she can't forget that man easily. I think if you let her see Kong Ming again, she'll be able to let it go. It's best to let her see how heartless Kong Ming is right now. Boss, won't this agitate Xiaofan? Has her illness just recovered? Kong Xiaobo was worried. Maybe not, but she'll be fine with me by her side. Lin Yi said, if she doesn't face this matter, she'll never be able to walk out of it. You're right. Kong Xiaobo nodded. Boss, I don't have to worry about Xiaofan acting up with you by my side. But where can I meet Kong Ming? My second grandpa's family has moved to the provincial capital. There'll be a chance, right? Lin Yi said faintly. Xiaobo, you should be more confident now. Don't always treat yourself as a substitute for Kong Ming. Maybe Xiaofan will slowly accept you this way. If you keep thinking about how you look like your cousin and use it as a method to chase after Xiaofan, then it'll be a little sad. Boss, don't worry. I won't embarrass you. I will definitely deal with Xiaofan. Kong Ming vowed. You've already decided? You want to be with Xiaofan? Lin Yi asked. It's decided. Boss, I've made up my mind. Xiaobo nodded solemnly. I stayed with Fawn at the hospital last night. It can't be? Lin Yi's eyes went wide. He didn't expect his follower to be even fiercer than he was. All he did was hold Tang Yun's hand and pinch Yu Shu's boobs, but Kong Xiaobo was already sleeping with them. Sweat? Boss, you misunderstood. I'm just accompanying you. Kong Xiaobo was sweating profusely. Nothing happened between us. Lin Yi was speechless. And then? I talked to Xiaofan a lot, and I know what she's thinking. Kong Xiaobo said. Boss, you're right. Xiaofan just won't give up. She knows that it's impossible, but Kong Ming didn't say it to her personally. She still won't give up. Speaking of which, this incident might cause your relationship with your cousin to break up. Are you sure it's okay? Lin Yi asked. Kong Ming did such an inhumane thing, and I still recognize him as my brother? Kong Xiaobo laughed coldly. If it wasn't for second grandpa, I'd go and beat him up right now. You can beat him up, but not now. You don't have that strength yet. Lin Yi attacked Kong Xiaobo. I know. Kong Xiaobo sighed. He's the second young master of House Kong. What am I? A poor relative of Dr. Kong? Zhang Naipeo didn't come to school today. Other than Pinliang, no one knew where he went. Even Pinliang's subordinate, Gao Xiaofu, didn't know. He only told the school that he was on sick leave and told his family that he was going to do something big for Pinliang. After that, he was escorted to Springstar Mountain by Fabai's men. Pinliang glared at Lin Yi. You don't need to show off in front of me. When Zhang Naipeo comes back from his studies, I'll see how you die. At that thought, Pinliang felt a little better. Linny was going to die sooner or later anyway. He'd let him have his fun for a couple of days. He'd let him be happy for a couple of days before he died. And so, Pinliang looked at Lin Yi with pity. As far as he was concerned, Lin Yi was a dead man. Ming Yao, are you free on Saturday? My dad gave me 3D movie tickets. Let's go watch it together? Pinliang had been urged by his father this morning to hook up with Ming Yao as soon as possible, otherwise his uncle Gubong might come up with some plan that he didn't need to cooperate with anymore. How Shone wouldn't get anything out of it then. And so, Pinliang started to get close to Ming Yao. I told you not to call me Ming Yao. Do you have ears? Ming Yao was disgusted by Pinliang calling her so intimately. Pinliang didn't seem to care at all. He moved his stool over and sat beside Ming Yao. Heh, then I'll call you Yao Yao. Why don't you go die? Ming Yao frowned. Do you have something to do? Yeah, let's go watch a movie together on Saturday. It's the 3D version of Fallen Angel. It's an international blockbuster, Pinliang said as he pulled out 3 movie tickets. I'm not free. I have something else on Saturday. Ming Yao rejected immediately. She promised Shu to go bungee jumping, so naturally she wouldn't go watch a movie. Even if she didn't go bungee jumping, she wouldn't go watch a movie with Pinliang. The guy was even more annoying than Linny. HM? Ming Yao paused at the thought. Didn't she think that Linny was more annoying than Pinliang? Did she change the order already? Ming Yao shook her head. She didn't know what was going on. Then we can go on Sunday, Pinliang said, not getting tired of it. Ming Yao couldn't take it anymore. She nudged Yushu, signaling her to go to Lin Yi. Yushu smiled and sent a message to Lin Yi. Yao Yao sis is in trouble. I need help. Linny didn't know whether to laugh or cry when he saw Yushu's message, but he stood up anyway. He'd promised Ming Yao yesterday that he'd help her if Pinliang bothered her. Boss, where are you going? Kong Xiaobo was confused when he saw Linny standing up. I'm going to the washroom. You coming? Linny asked. Yeah, wait for me. Kong Xiaobo stood up with Linny, but he couldn't help but smile when he saw Pinliang blocking the way. Pinliang was in trouble again. Chapter 256. Should you change your seat? Do you have a bad memory? I told you not to gamble. Are you deaf? Lin Yi said coldly from behind Pinliang. Truth be told, if it weren't for Lin Yi's desire to live a peaceful life in Songshan, Pinliang would have become a pile of ashes a long time ago. You. Pinliang was about to turn around when he heard the voice when he felt his body lighten. He was sent flying with a whoosh, landing on the podium with a loud thud. He let out a cry of pain. You change your seat. It's not suitable for you to sit here. I'll send you flying out of the classroom window next time. Lin Yi warned faintly as he kicked Pinliang's chair away. This kid should know his place and stay away from Ming Yao. He didn't need to be called over by Yushu to help him out every time. Pinliang glared at Lin Yi, but didn't dare say anything. He knew that whatever he said now would only put him at a disadvantage, and Lin Yi would keep beating him up. He wasn't a match for Lin Yi right now, and the only thing he could do was endure. Pinliang didn't say anything, and Lin Yi walked past him with a warning. Remember what I said, if you keep sitting in front of me, I'll make sure you're a trapeze artist every day. Pinliang clenched his teeth. When had he ever been threatened like this before? But this Lin Yi was someone he couldn't beat, and even Heibao Bro, who he was so proud of, wasn't a match for him. How could he piss off someone like this? Pinliang didn't want to change his seat, but Lin Yi had said it. Pinliang believed that Lin Yi would definitely throw him out if he didn't change his seat. Lin Yi was a madman, arrogant to the point that he didn't care about anything. News of Zhou Ruoming getting slapped in the face by Lin Yi in front of the dean had spread like wildfire. Pinliang knew that he wasn't a match for a madman like that. It seemed like he'd have to get away from Ming Yao. He'd have to move to a corner if he wanted to get out of that bastard's line of sight. He'd just have to get rid of Lin Yi and switch back. Other than Lin Yi, there was no one else in this class who dared to go against her wishes. Changing seats was just a matter of saying the word. Boss, I'm starting to doubt your background now. Did you really come from the mountains? Kong Xiaobo asked, looking at Lin Yi curiously. One of my elders, a board member of the school board, Lin Yi said, giving a simple explanation of his background. Oh, no wonder. No wonder even the Dean of Academic Affairs couldn't do anything to you. So that's why, Kang Xiaobo said, understanding dawning on him. That luxurious car that sent you to school that morning belonged to that board member? Yeah. Linny nodded. Amazing, Kang Xiaobo said excitedly. I didn't know you had such a powerful background. I thought you were just a poor student like me. Huh. Linny smiled, not bothering to explain. In fact, a powerful background didn't have much of an effect. Wasn't Pingliang's background powerful? Why didn't he dare act arrogant in front of the dean? At the end of the day, wasn't it because he had Wang Jifeng's weakness? Wang Jifeng couldn't do anything to him. Right, boss, don't you need to go to the washroom? Kang Xiaobo asked curiously, seeing that Lin Yi didn't go to the washroom. I just don't like Pinliang and I wanted to teach him a lesson. Lin Yi didn't hide it. He didn't need to go to the washroom at all. Kang Xiaobo would see through him if he went to the washroom, so he just told him the truth. So that's how it is. Ha, Zhong Pingliang, that arrogant bastard. It's his bad luck to meet the boss. Xiaobo let out a long breath of vengeance, as if he was the one who'd taught Pinliang a lesson. Didn't you want to go to the washroom? Linny asked. I saw you coming out, so I wanted to follow you. Fun's matter is bothering me. Kang Xiaobo said. Let's go then. Linny nodded and walked with Kang Xiaobo in the hallway. There weren't many people in the hallway of the 12th grade. Other than the students on duty, everyone else was studying in the classroom. Those whose families had connections or couldn't get into college were playing basketball on the field or playing games outside of school. They wouldn't wander around in the hallway. They walked to the door of Class 5 and saw Tang Yun coming out with a bucket of water. She was probably going to the washroom to change the water. Kang Xiaobo quickly ran over. Sis, let me do it, Tang Yun jumped at Kang Xiaobo and almost dropped the bucket. What? What did you call me? Sis, Kang Xiaobo said matter-of-factly. Yesterday, boss declared his sovereignty over you in front of so many people. Sis, you didn't deny it either. Don't call me that. Tang Yun blushed and handed the bucket to Kang Xiaobo. Go get some water. Oh, heh, okay. Xiaobo said as he took the bucket and ran to the washroom. Don't mind him. He's just like that. Linny put his hands on the wall and surrounded Tang Yun. And, I know. Tang Yun was a little shy. Don't be like this. We're in school. Lin Yi's action was unintentional. He realized how intimate his action was after hearing Tang Yun's words. It was as if he was going to kiss Tang Yun. He quickly retracted his hand awkwardly. What if we're not in school? Yeah, I'm ignoring you. Tang Yun, naturally, didn't want to talk about this topic with Lin Yi. Lin Yi's situation had been messing with her mind for the past 2 days, especially last night. She hadn't been able to sleep at all. The image of Lin Yi holding her hand and slapping Zhou Ruoming's face kept flashing in her mind. Did this mean that she liked him? Tang Yun didn't know, but she couldn't stop herself from thinking about it, Lin Yi smiled and stopped teasing her. Tang Yun was different from Sun Jingyi in Lin Yi's heart. Sun Jingyi was a cunning fox. Lin Yi wouldn't spoil her. However, he only cared about Tang Yun. Look at Xiaobo. Something happened. Tang Yun was panicking. She looked around, afraid that people would see her and Lin Yi together. Kang Xiaobo was in trouble. Chapter 257. Is a confession considered a boyfriend? Kang Xiaobo naturally wasn't the fatty's opponent and stumbled from the impact. But that wasn't all. Coincidentally, the dirty water in the bucket spilled all over the fatty's pants, as if he'd just peed his pants. Do you have eyes? The fatty was enraged. He'd gone to the washroom to smoke a cigarette, only to be splashed with dirty water. It infuriated him. Do you want to die? This fatty was a little tyrant in the 3rd year of high school. Of course, the little tyrant was only a little famous in the grade. Compared to the 4 big bullies in the school, he was simply not on the same level. However, it was very normal for the little tyrant to show off in front of ordinary students. And so, the fat little tyrant treated Kang Xiaobo as a target to vent his anger on. How can you blame me for this? At most, we're both in the wrong. Why didn't you keep an eye on it? Kang Xiaobo was a little angry. He wasn't an unreasonable person. He was just about to apologize when the fatty started scolding him. Keep an eye on it? You Dafa, haven't even kept an eye on who's passing by. Which class are you from? Don't you know me? The fat little tyrant glared at Kong Xiaobo. You Dafa? Kong Xiaobo paused. He took a closer look at the person in front of him. It really was Yudafa, but there was a trace of disdain in his heart. He looked at the bucket in his hand. There was still some dirty water left. Kong Xiaobo picked it up and poured it on Yudafa's head. You don't want to live anymore, do you? Yudafa was furious as he pointed at Kong Xiaobo. Hurry up and scram. My boss and sister-in-law are waiting for me to fetch water. I won't care if my boss comes over if you continue to dawdle. Kong Xiaobo pushed Yudafa's hand to the side. Your boss and sister-in-law? Yudafa was stunned. He was a little confused. It's right behind me. Kong Xiaobo pointed behind him. Yudafa looked in the direction Kong Xiaobo was pointing and saw Lin Yi and Tang Yun standing not too far away. His legs cramped, and he almost fell to the ground. Brother, you said that Brother Lin Yi is your boss? Yudafa's tone toward Kong Xiaobo suddenly became polite. Who didn't know Lin Yi? He was one of the big 4 young thugs in the new school. He was vaguely above the other 2 young thugs and had become the leader of the new generation. How could he, Yudafa, afford to offend such a person? The first of the 4 big bullies had already graduated and became a legend, and the last one was a demon from the middle school department. After staying in the school for a few days, he had turned the school upside down. Although he had already transferred out, he was still listed as one of the legends of the 4 big bullies. Now, there were only 2 of the big 4 left, but they were completely trampled by Lin Yi. Lin Yi had become the leader of the new generation of Big 4, and Yudafa, who was a little tyrant at his age, didn't dare to offend him. He knew that he wasn't a match for Pinliang and Zhou Ruoming, let alone Lin Yi. Of course, I'm Kong Xiaobo, the only follower of my boss. Look closely and be more observant next time. Kong Xiaobo put his hands on his waist and said to Yudafa, Yes, yes. Yudafa nodded quickly. Go get me a bucket of water. Kong Xiaobo handed the bucket to Yudafa. I'll go right now. Yudafa felt that it was an honor to be able to do something for Lin Yi. He could brag about it in the future. Lin Yi had asked him to do something before, so Lin Yi could be considered half his boss now. Yudafa brought the water back to Xiaobo, who was just about to take it when Yudafa spoke up. Bro, I can't let you do this. I'll bring it to the boss myself. Kong Xiaobo nodded and sighed. His status had risen along with Lin Yi. If it weren't for Lin Yi, would Yudafa give him so much face? In the past, it would be good enough if Yudafa didn't beat him up, let alone bring water. Yudafa brought the bucket to Lin Yi and Tang Yun. Boss, sis-in-law, the water is here. You are? Lin Yi looked at Yudafa suspiciously. He didn't know this person. Where did he come from? Boss, I'm Yudafa, the leader of the 12th grade. Of course, compared to Boss Lin Yi, I'm nothing. Yudafa introduced himself. Oh, Lin Yi nodded. All right, I got it. You can go now. Thank you. You're welcome, boss. If you need anything, you can find me anytime. I'm in the 30th grade, Yudafa said respectfully. Tang Yin didn't think that the evil Yudafa would show his loyalty to Lin Yi. She was confused. The most embarrassing thing was that he called her sis-in-law. Tang Yun still remembered the love letter Yudafa wrote to her. It was so disgusting and explicit, but in the blink of an eye, it became subservient. All of this was because of Lin Yi, the boy who transferred here less than a month ago. I'm going back. I need to clean the windows. Tang Yun picked up the bucket on the ground and said to Lin Yi and Kong Xiaobo, Okay, go. Lin Yi nodded and went back to the classroom with Kong Xiaobo. Pinliang obediently moved to Gao Xiaofu's side. It was a corner of the classroom, far away from Lin Yi. He was afraid that Lin Yi would turn him into a flying man. Yao sis, I think Shield bro is too handsome. Yushu pulled Meng Yao's arm. Look at Pinliang. He moved away after being scared by him. You don't have to worry about being harassed anymore. Yeah, he's so handsome. Let him touch your boobs. Meng Yao pouted. Yao sis, are you jealous? Why don't you let him touch you next time? Yushu said with a smile. I'm not an idiot. Meng Yao glared at Yushu. Is he my boyfriend? Why should I let him touch me? If you want to be touched, then go ahead. Oh, Shield Bro accepted my confession. He's my boyfriend now, right? Yushu mumbled to herself. It wasn't a loss for her to let him touch her boobs. Yes, that's it. Meng Yao was going crazy from Yushu. Was there something wrong with her friend's head? Was there anyone like her? It was Saturday morning, and Lin Yi was woken up by Yushu's slap. Shield Bro, wake up. We're going to the theme park today. Theme park? It was only then that Lin Yi remembered that he'd promised the Miss and Shu to go bungee jumping. He got up in a daze, washed up, and put on a fresh set of clothes. He walked out of the room to find Meng Yao and Yushu ready. You drive Shu's Beetle and follow us. Shu and I will sit in my car. Meng Yao ordered after looking at Lin Yi. Chapter 258. Suspicion of an insider. Lin Yi drove quietly behind Meng Yao's Audi S5, glancing at the rearview mirror from time to time. Following them again? Sihua's Min? A cold smile formed on Lin Yi's lips. It was the same car that tailed him last time. Did they really think he wouldn't be able to detect them with this kind of tracking technology? Sihua was quite the daring one, wasn't he? 2 of his men died last time, so who was he going to send this time? As a result, Lin Yi didn't get out of the car to ask. He pretended like he didn't know anything as he followed behind Meng Yao. Lin Yi wouldn't mind giving them another car accident if the black SUV dared to make a move. Songshan's theme park was located in the southern district of Songshan. Built at the end of the 2000 years, it was one of the more famous theme parks in the province. Meng Yao parked the car in the park's underground parking lot, and Lin Yi parked at the side as well. He followed Meng Yao into the elevator when Lin Yi saw the black SUV, following them turn into the parking lot as well. What surprised Lin Yi was that the SUV didn't have a parking card, instead showing a small plastic ID to the toll booth at the entrance. Lin Yi found it odd. Did this SUV have something to do with the theme park? Yao, where does this theme park belong to? Public or private? Lin Yi asked casually. Public and private? Why do you ask? Meng Yao didn't understand what Lin Yi was getting at. Public and private? Which company invested in it? Lin Yi didn't let go of the topic that easily. Shield Bro, it's Uncle Chu's business. Yushu blurted out. Oh. Lin Yi blinked. Could it be that someone from Pengzhan Industries was in the SUV? That was the only way to explain why there was no charge in the underground parking lot. The SUV wasn't a military vehicle, just a regular license plate. It wouldn't be free parking if it wasn't related to the theme park. Daddy's company invested in it, but it's always been managed by a subsidiary company. Meng Yao said. Then can we park here for free? Lin Yi asked. Meng Yao looked at Lin Yi as if he was an alien. She might be a miss, but calling Faubert just for a few kuai parking fee was too much trouble, wasn't it? Lin Yi smiled faintly. The people in the MPV behind him probably weren't lacking in money, either. Who would be short on parking fees if they were able to wrestle with Pengzhan? However, being able to park for free was also a symbol of status and privilege. The people in the car probably thought so too. Lin Yi had guessed correctly. In the SUV, Zhang Yuzhou was all smiles as he looked at Mao Sheng. Jean Bro, you're amazing, you don't even need to pay for parking. This amusement park was originally invested and built by the company, and I happen to be in charge of it, Mao Sheng said nonchalantly as he put away his ID. Since I have this privilege, of course I'll use it. You're right, Yuzhou said with a laugh. But, since this is Jean Bro's territory, it'll be even easier. I was worried about not knowing where to start, but it's no problem now. I didn't think they'd come to the amusement park, Mao Sheng said with a cold smile on his lips. There's a few of my confidants here. We can ask them for help later. Confidants? Won't they spill the beans? Yuzhou was a little worried after all. They were going to kill someone today. Spill? Humph. Let's give them some guts. Mao Sheng said disdainfully. They're the ones helping me get money, and the amount of money they've embezzled is a death sentence. Then it's fine. Yuzhou nodded. They were on the same boat now, so there was no need to worry about them betraying him. Find someone smart enough to follow the 3 of them and report their location. We'll see what we can do to create an accident, Mao Sheng said to Yuzhou. No problem. Yujo said to an inconspicuous young man in the car. Ma, you go. Yes, Yujo bro. The young man said as he got out of the car and quickly followed. A cold light flashed through Maoxing's eyes. He was the cautious type, and he didn't know much about this Ma youngster's background. He'd seen him today. Maoxing's first thought was to get rid of this Ma as soon as this was over. He couldn't let the guy cause him any trouble at all. The person behind Sihua had eyes and ears everywhere, but he wouldn't stand up for Master Bing if something were to happen. Master Bing was his bastard son, but his wife's family wasn't to be messed with either. It'd be troublesome to raise an illegitimate child this big. Maoxing knew that, and so he always kept a backup plan in place. Yao Yao, are we going bungee jumping now? Yushu was looking forward to it. The amusement park was Pengzhan's property, but the two of them had only been here once when it was first building. The bungee jumping valley hadn't been built yet. Bungee jumping as soon as we got here? Meng Yao had been holding back for the past few days and wanted to vent her frustrations, but bungee jumping as soon as they got to the amusement park wasn't something she could handle. After all, bungee jumping was dangerous and exhausting, and Meng Yao wanted to explore the other parts of the park first. Let's explore then. Right, Yao Yao? Why don't we go to the haunted house first? I heard that there's a new haunted house here. It's really scary. Yushu suggested. Haunted house? Meng Yao frowned. Why would Yushu want to go to such a childish place? Haunted house? Who was she trying to scare? It was all fake stuff. What was there to see? Yeah, it's really scary. I heard that a lot of young couples go there, and when their girlfriends get scared, they get to take advantage of them. Yushu said with a straight face. Shu, are you an idiot? Meng Yao was speechless. Then why don't you go with Lin Yi and let him take advantage of you? No, I'm not scared, but I think you'll be scared, Yao Yao. Yushu said. Me? Scared? Meng Yao was even more speechless. You think I'll be scared of kid stuff? If that's the case, then let's go. Let's see who's scared. But Shu, I'm telling you, don't get upset when he takes advantage of you. Yao Yao, we don't know who gets taken advantage of yet. Yushu said with a smile. She'd secretly watched the recording of Pyongyang's haunted house before, and naturally, she wasn't that scared. Chapter 259. Pretending to be a ghost Ma, who'd been following Meng Yao and Yushu from afar, heard their conversation as well. Naturally, Linny had noticed Ma coming, but didn't want to startle him. As far as he was concerned, Ma wasn't much of a threat at all. Might as well let him tag along and see what he was up to. Who knew? He might even be able to lure out the mastermind. He was just a small character, and Lin Yi killing him wouldn't affect the mastermind at all. The guy wasn't even a third of a golden class. He was just an errand boy. Yuchu bro, it sounds like they're going to the haunted house. Ma's mission was to report Meng Yao and the others' movements to Maoxing and Zhang Yuchu. Haunted house? I got it. Yuchu said. I'll discuss it with Jean bro. I'll tell you what to do. Maoxing had heard Ma's words through the walkie-talkie as well, but he hadn't figured out what kind of accident he could create in the haunted house yet. Assassinations were out of the question, and that would only draw the police in faster. That wasn't something he wanted to see. Get Ma to go to the ticket counter first. Tell them to slow down the sales. Don't let Meng Yao and the others go in immediately, Maoxing said after some thought. All right. Yuchu relayed Maoxing's message to Ma. Jinbro, what should we do now? What kind of accident do you think could kill people in a haunted house? Maoxing decided to discuss it with Yuchu. Inside the haunted house. Yuchu couldn't think of any good ideas. There's nothing else in the haunted house other than scaring people. It's all fake stuff. Scaring people. Maoxing cackled all of a sudden. I got it. Heh. Let's go pretend to be ghosts and scare them to death. What do you think? That's a good idea. The things in there are all dead. Although it's scary, it's nothing. But if we pretend to be ghosts and shout their names, they will probably. Yuchu nodded in agreement. Isn't there a saying that goes, don't you remember? It was so scary that it scared people to death. That's what it means. Let's go. Let's go get ready. Don't scare those two girls to death. Maoxing smiled darkly. He'd only been suggesting it casually, but Yuchu's approval had moved him. That's right. Scaring people to death. This is an old saying. It shouldn't be wrong. Why does this haunted house only let 3 or 4 people in at a time? Meng Yao looked at the entrance of the haunted house impatiently. There were still 3 or 4 groups of people waiting in front of her. Who knew how long it would take for them to get there? If he had known earlier, he would have asked Faubert to come and give him a heads up, saving him from having to wait for so long. Isn't it too late for a good show? Yushu, on the other hand, didn't mind. You know what, Yao Yao? The 2 couples who went in just now were pale with fright. You'll be like that too, Meng Yao said, annoyed. Why don't we stop playing and go watch something else? Let's wait a little longer. It'll be our turn in another 2 or 3 groups. Yushu didn't want to give up just like that. Yao Yao, think about it. It's scarier when there's only a few people in the haunted house. What's the point if there's too many visitors? If there's too many people and too few ghosts, then are the ghosts scaring the people, or the people scaring the ghosts? There's no point in that. That's true. Meng Yao was starting to agree with Yushu's reasoning. Indeed, if there were too many people, then there'd be no time for ghosts. In the control room at the back of the haunted house, Mao Sheng, Zhang Yuzhou, and Ma had all changed into their costumes. Mao Sheng was a vampire, Zhang Yuzhou was a zombie, and Ma was a faceless man with something stuck to his face. Get ready, call the people in front. They don't need to come in, just tell Meng Yao to come in directly. Yuchu said to Ma. Yes, Ma was already a faceless man, and his speech was a little sluggish. He took out his phone and dialed a number. You guys can go now. Outside the haunted house, the 2 groups of people waiting in front of Meng Yao's group suddenly spoke up after receiving a call. We're not waiting anymore. It's too slow. Let's go and play something else. Yeah, it's so slow. I don't want to watch anymore. Let's go. Another person immediately echoed. And so, the 2 groups of people turned around and left without any hesitation. Yao Yao, is there something wrong with them? They've been waiting in line for so long. It's almost their turn, and they're leaving? Yushu looked at the 2 groups of people as if they were idiots. Who knows? But it's good that they're leaving. It'll be our turn soon. Meng Yao was a little troubled as well, but it was a good thing that they were leaving. They didn't have to wait anymore. Lin Yi, on the other hand, looked at the 2 groups of people coldly, a cold smile on his lips. Making a move already? Inside the haunted house? Next, the worker opened the door and looked at Meng Yao's group. Is that you guys? Are the 3 of you together? Yes. Is it our turn? Meng Yao asked. We're here. Give me the tickets and you can go in. The staff took the ticket from Meng Yao's hand and threw it into the box without even looking at it, making Lin Yi look down on them. They didn't even know how to put on an act. Were they in such a hurry to get them in? Meng Yao, Yushu, and Lin Yi entered the haunted house one after another, and the door slammed shut behind them. Arg! Ma Yao couldn't help but shiver. She knew it was fake, but the creepy atmosphere in the haunted house still made her shiver. Shu, hold on to me. Don't run around. It's pretty scary in here. Meng Yao tried to maintain the demeanor of a big sister, but there was a hint of fear in her voice. She wanted Yushu to hold on to her so that Yushu wouldn't be afraid, but anyone could tell that Meng Yao was just putting on a brave front. Hee, Yao Yao, are you scared? Yushu wasn't a coward. She wasn't scared even after hearing the screams. Who said I'm scared? Meng Yao wouldn't admit that she was scared. These things are fake, they're just scaring people. What's there to be scared of? Let's go. Lin Yi, follow behind us. Don't go too far. Chapter 260. Yushu Ghost Catcher, Part 1. Back in the primeval forest, every step taken was filled with poisonous beasts and venomous bugs. That was the real deal, but these things were nothing in Lin Yi's eyes. How could someone who'd lived in that kind of environment be afraid of ghosts? Ugh! An old lady with blood dripping from her eyes floated past Meng Yao's eyes. Meng Yao was startled, grabbing onto Yushu's hand tightly. She regretted coming here if she'd known how scary this thing was. Hehe, Yao Yao, it's a lie. Yushu's hand went through the old lady's body. See, it's fake, right? It's just a 3D slideshow. Oh. Mengyao calmed down after seeing Yushu's demonstration. And this was only the beginning. The deeper they went, the scarier it got. Other than the ghosts that would appear out of nowhere, there were also some zombies jumping out of the coffins, making Mengyao's heart skip a beat. Whoosh! A zombie with pus all over its body sat up abruptly, shooting a jet of black blood at Mengyao. Mengyao screamed as she backed away subconsciously, bumping into Lin Yi. What are you doing behind me? Didn't you tell me to follow you? Lin Yi shrugged. It's fake. It's just a mist of light. Oh. Mengyao was a little embarrassed. It was true that she'd told Lin Yi to stand behind her because she was afraid that something might ambush them from behind. But after Lin Yi's explanation, Mengyao realized that the blood sword was just an illusion. It wasn't real at all. After a couple of scares, Mengyao's courage started to grow. What was there to be afraid of? She could see it, but she couldn't touch it. What was there to be afraid of? Mengyao watched as Yushu waved her hands around to catch the monsters, and she let loose as well. She started punching and kicking like Yushu, having fun. Pack! Mengyao felt someone slap her arrowhead, thinking that it was Lin Yi. Lin Yi, what are you doing? Don't mess around. I'm having fun. Pack! That hand slapped Mengyao again, pissing her off. She turned her head to the side. Lin Yi, you. Mengyao shrieked as she saw a faceless man patting her shoulder. Of course, the faceless man wasn't scary. What was scary was that the faceless man's hand wasn't an illusion, but a real slap on his body. Yao sis, what's wrong? Yushu was in the middle of fighting the ghost when she heard Mengyao scream. She turned around to see a faceless person patting Mengyao's shoulder. Yushu was a little puzzled. Weren't the things in here illusions? Why wasn't the faceless man one? Yushu quickly walked over to Mengyao's side and reached out to touch the faceless man's face. I can touch it? Did you get an actual item? I'm a faceless man. I'm going to eat you all. Ma growled in a low voice, frustrated that Yushu was grabbing him. Yuchu Bro was only asking him to play along, so he didn't dare act rashly. Lin Yi, on the other hand, looked at Ma interested. Lin Yi could tell from the faceless man's shoes that it was Ma, the one who'd been tailing them all this time. He had a rough idea of what they were up to. These people were really ruthless, trying to scare Mengyao to death by pretending to be ghosts. What were they thinking? Didn't they know that Mengyao had a clown by her side? Even if Mengyao was a coward, there was no way she'd be scared to death by Yushu. But even if this Ma was weak, and Lin Yi could tell that he was just pretending to be a ghost, Lin Yi still kept his guard up. If this Ma did anything to harm Mengyao, Lin Yi would be the first to act. Lin Yi didn't think that they'd do something like that in the haunted house. If they did, they wouldn't have to wait until they were in the haunted house. They could do it anywhere else. Yao sis, look at this faceless man. He's pretty good at it. Look at how thick his face is. He can even pull. Yushu said as she pulled on the faceless man's face with all her might, stretching it out a few centimeters. Ouch! Ma almost teared up from the pain. Why wasn't this girl afraid of him? How dare she pinch a ghost's face? How dare she? Is that so? Mengyao wasn't scared anymore. She reached out and pulled on the other half of the faceless man's face, and both sides of Ma's face were pulled up at the same time. His mouth was pulled into the shape of a ladle, and he couldn't scream even if he wanted to. Woo! I'm a faceless man. I'm going to eat you all. Ma was on the verge of crying. Can't you say something else to scare people? Yushu was a little speechless. Yao sis, get out of the way. I'll kill him. Oh, okay. Mengyao dodged to the side, but Yushu raised her leg and kicked the faceless man's crotch. Ma's eyes rolled back, and he fainted from the pain. Hey! Yushu waved her hands in the air excitedly. Yao, I'm so good. I killed a faceless man. Shu, can't you kick this model until it's broken? Why isn't he moving? Mengyao, naturally, didn't think that the faceless man was a person. She thought that it was a model that Yushu's kick had stopped working. Ugh, it's fine. It's your daddy's theme park. Someone will fix it even if it's broken. Yushu said after some thought. That's true. Meng Yao didn't really mind. She didn't care about something as small as this. After all, as far as she was concerned, she could just throw it away. Not far away, Mao Xing's face twitched a couple of times, and Yuchu was sweating as well. Wasn't this girl a little too much? Not only did she pinch Ma's face, but she also did a climax kick to the groin, cutting off Ma's lineage. Jean bro, what do we do? Yuchu was a little nervous. Looks like we'll have to go a little harder, Mao Xing said with a cold smile. Let's go. Yushu continued swinging her fists at the monsters after taking care of the faceless man, only to realize that the other faceless man was the only one that was real. She couldn't touch them at all. Linny looked at Ma pitifully, feeling a chill in his heart. This Yushu girl sure was ruthless. He hadn't even made a move, and Ma was crippled by her kick. Chapter 261. Chapter 261. Yushu, Ghost Hunter, Part 2. Meng Yao jumped in fright. How did this zombie know her name? She didn't care about the other zombies, but this zombie was shouting her name. How could she not be afraid? Yushu was puzzled. Yao Yao, is this zombie intelligent? It even knows your name? How would I know? Shoo, I'm a little scared. Meng Yao was starting to feel weird. How did this zombie know her name? Maybe the staff of the amusement park recognized you as Uncle Chu's daughter and changed the procedure to please you? Yushu thought about it. It was the only possibility. She couldn't think of any other possibilities, since there was no need to register one's name when buying a ticket. Shoo, I'm a little scared. Let's go. Meng Yao didn't want to stay here any longer. The things here were making her uncomfortable. It's fine, Yao Yao. Let me help you get rid of this zombie. Yushu, on the other hand, charged at the zombie excitedly. La la la, I'm a little expert at ghost hunting. Yushu rushed to the zombie's side and stomped down hard on the zombie's instep, causing Yuchu to howl in pain as he bounced to the side on his tiptoes, much faster than before. Yay, Yao Yao, look, I beat the zombie away, Yushu said with a triumphant smile on her face as she watched the zombie run away. What a good program design. Let's get Uncle Chu to praise him. This zombie can still run away after getting stepped on. Meng Yao was amused by Yushu. She now believed Yushu's conjecture that someone must have recognized her identity as Miss Chu and purposely changed the haunted house's computer program to please her. Meng Yao's eyes lit up at the sight of Yushu. Meng Yao wasn't that scared anymore after Yushu's teasing. She turned to Lin Yi as she watched the zombie run away faster than a rabbit. Linny, go catch that zombie for me. Okay. Linny nodded. Yuchu Zhang immediately cursed inwardly. Could it be that this lady is thinking of some kind of trick to mess with me again? He was just about to speed up and leave this place when he felt someone grab him by the back of his neck. His body lightened, and he was sent flying, landing heavily at Meng Yao and Yushu's feet. Ha, the zombies are back. Yao Yao sis, let's continue playing zombies. With that, Yushu jumped up from the ground and stomped on Yuchu's stomach with both feet, stomping and kicking it. Yuchu let out a blood-curdling scream. He felt as if his intestines were about to be trampled out. His eyes rolled back from the pain, and he fainted. Boring, Yushu said as she jumped down after stomping on the zombie a couple more times. This zombie's quality is really bad. I only stepped on it a couple of times, and it's already broken. I wonder which company made it. Tell Uncle Chu to complain about them. Haha, Meng Yao found it funny. That was a model for the haunted house. It'd be a wonder if it wasn't broken after you stepped on it. Mao Sheng looked at Yuchu, a black line forming on his forehead. Why was this Yushu girl even fiercer than that Linny bodyguard? His plan was basically ruined by Yushu, and there was no point in trying to scare Meng Yao anymore. Meng Yao wouldn't be scared anymore. Mao Sheng was a little resentful. Meng Yao was clearly afraid of ghosts, and she was already terrified when Ma patted her. If he and Yuchu had cooperated, Meng Yao would have been scared out of her wits. In actuality, he could tell that Meng Yao was really scared of these things, but Yushu just had to start messing around with Ma the moment he appeared. Not only did she break Ma's line, but Zhang Yuxing's intestines had probably shifted as well. What the hell was going on? getting stepped on instead of pretending to be a ghost. Was there anything that unlucky in this world? Could it be even more unlucky? His plan of scaring Ming Yao to death wasn't going to work anymore, and Mao Sheng looked a little regretful. Still, he wouldn't continue with something he couldn't do. There was no point in pretending to be a ghost anymore, and he decided to leave first. He'd have to figure out the next step of his plan. He had to kill Ming Yao today. Mao Sheng turned to leave when he heard Yushu's angry yell. "Where are you going, vampire?" Mao Sheng's vision darkened, and he almost fell to the ground. Why wasn't she letting him run? Mao Sheng was about to speed up his footsteps and ignore the girl when something smashed into the back of his head with a loud thud, followed by a wave of pain as he fell to the ground, staggering. Yeah, one hit. That vampire's too weak. Yushu was dancing with joy as she tossed out one of the zombie's shoes. "Shoe? Why's there blood on the back of that vampire's head?" Meng Yao asked curiously as she looked at the fallen Mao Sheng. "It looks real, I guess." Yushu didn't know what was going on, but she didn't mind. "Who cares? Let's go, Yao Yao. We'll continue hunting ghosts." "Oh, okay." Meng Yao nodded as she followed Yushu. Linny looked at the two on the ground, speechless. These two idiots were just too unlucky to be treated as toys by Yushu. There weren't any more ghosts for Yushu to kill, and she was still looking forward to it even after they left the haunted house. Only 3 ghosts. That's a little too little. Yao Yao, can you suggest to Uncle Chu that we add a few more? We'll come again next time. I did. But you broke them again, didn't you? Meng Yao still hadn't realized that those 3 were real people, not props. Hee hee. Yushu stuck her tongue out. I regret not bringing a DV. I could have recorded it and let people see how cool I look when I fight ghosts. This trip to the haunted house took about an hour. Including the time they had spent waiting, it was almost noon. Yao Yao, should we go eat something first, or go bungee jumping first? Yushu was a little hungry. Let's eat first. I'm a little hungry too. Meng Yao was a little tired after going around the haunted house. There were a lot of fast food restaurants in the amusement park, and Meng Yao and Yushu found a place with a decent ambience and found a place to sit down. Chapter 262. Chapter 262, Meng Yao's admirers. When Meng Yao and the others entered the restaurant, there were a couple of well-dressed men sitting in a corner of the restaurant. "And bro, isn't that your Chu Lil sis?" One of the men in a white shirt said to the leader. Jiang Wen's eyes narrowed. He'd just returned to Songshan, and he'd only called a few of his old friends for a small gathering. He'd officially visit Meng Yao's house in 2 days, but he wasn't expecting to see Meng Yao, Yushu, and a stranger at an amusement park together. It made his heart ache. "I'll go say hi," Jiang Wen said to the 2 men beside him. "Do you need us to help?" The man in the white shirt asked. "Look at that guy. He's so poor that he's letting Meng Yao pay for his food. What the hell?" "Yeah, someone like that doesn't deserve to be in bro's opponent." The other man, who looked a bit feminine, spoke up as well. "It's fine. I'll go over myself." Jiang Wen waved his hand faintly and walked over to Meng Yao. "Yao Yao, long time no see. I didn't think you'd become a big girl in the blink of an eye." Jiang Wen greeted Meng Yao with a smile, his face full of warmth and friendliness, like a big brother next door. You're Jiang Wen, bro?" Meng Yao blinked, pleasantly surprised. "You're back?" "Yeah, I just came back yesterday, and I'm having a gathering with a few of my old friends today. I didn't expect to see you here. I was planning on paying Uncle Chu and Yao Yao a formal visit this weekend." Jiang Wen sat down gracefully on the seat that used to belong to Lin Yi beside Meng Yao, turning to Yushu. "Shu, you're still so cute. Do you remember Jiang Wen, bro?" "Of course I do. He lost to my bro. How could I forget?" Hee hee. Yushu waved at Jiang Wen with a smile. A trace of gentleness flashed through Jiang Wen's eyes, but he quickly recovered his smile. "Yeah? Yutian bro's gone to the border now, and it's hard to see him. If he comes back, then all of us Songshan young masters will be back." A look of reminiscence appeared on Jiang Wen's face. Back in the day, under Yutian bro's leadership, how glorious were the Songshan young masters. Haha, we're all grown up now. "Are you staying here for Songshan, bro Jiang Wen?" Meng Yao asked casually. Yeah, I've decided to stay here since I came back, because my lil sis Yao Yao is here. Jiang Wen smiled warmly as he looked at Meng Yao. Meng Yao didn't know why, but she felt a little depressed. Jiang Wen's words didn't have the intimacy they had when they were younger, and Jiang Wen's attitude made her feel uncomfortable instead. Ah, is that so? You're welcome then. Meng Yao forced a smile. They were talking when Lin Yi came back with a plate of food. This restaurant only sold set meals, and Lin Yi ordered 3 of them randomly. Anyone who wanted to eat could have whatever they wanted. Lin Yi, on the other hand, kept his eyes on Jiang Wen. This guy knew Meng Yao, but Lin Yi wasn't sure if he'd do anything to Meng Yao. Mister, you're sitting in my seat. If you want to keep sitting here, you can ask the waiter to add another chair. Lin Yi said as he put the tray on the table. It was a 3-seater table. They could add another chair, but it'd be a little cramped. Haha, Yao Yao Lil Sis, who is this? Aren't you going to introduce me? Jiang Wen's words were polite, but there was a dark look in his eyes. He was clearly pissed off at Lin Yi for asking him to give up his seat so rudely. Jiang Wen didn't move at all as he spoke, showing no intention of giving up his seat to Lin Yi. Evidently, Lin Yi wasn't even worthy of being called an opponent in his eyes. He was wearing a shirt worth tens of kwai and a pair of black casual pants. His outfit didn't even add up to 200 kwai. How could someone like this be a match for the 4 young masters of Songshan? Oh, he's Lin Yi, Yao Yao's bodyguard and shield. Yu Shu was the first to get to the point. Bodyguard and shield? Jiang Wen paused, not understanding what this bodyguard and shield meant. It'd be understandable if it were just a bodyguard. After all, a rich young miss wouldn't lack bodyguards, but a shield. That made him think of something. Shield. That was a very alluring profession. He's my boyfriend, Yu Shu explained with a smile. Shu. Meng Yao glared at Yu Shu helplessly, but for some reason, she didn't refute or explain. Meng Yao's glare, however, turned into a pout in Jiang Wen's eyes. As far as he was concerned, Meng Yao and Lin Yi's relationship was probably a secret. Peng Zhan would never let his daughter marry a man who wore clothes that cost less than 200 kwai and who needed women to pay for their meals. So, their relationship was probably a secret, but Yu Shu had already exposed her, and Meng Yao could only glare at her angrily. Jiang Wen didn't feel good about this at all. Fuck. A poor kid like him wanted to climb up the ladder? Was he dreaming? Oh, so you're Lil Sis Yao Yao's boyfriend. Jiang Wen stood up. No matter what, this kid was Meng Yao's boyfriend now, so he could be considered a rival. His level was a little low, but he had the ability to win Meng Yao's heart. Jiang Wen wouldn't let his guard down. He extended his hand to Lin Yi. Hello, I'm Jiang Wen, Lil Sis Yao Yao's big bro. We can be considered childhood friends. Jiang Wen thought that Lin Yi would be surprised and not know what to do after hearing his name, but he was disappointed Lin Yi acted as if he didn't know him at all. He extended his hand faintly. Mr. In, my hand was stained with vegetable soup just now. I hope you don't mind? Jiang Wen's face froze. He looked at Lin Yi's hand, which was stained with oil. He didn't know what to say. If he shook hands with Lin Yi, he'd dirty his hand, but if he didn't shake hands with Lin Yi, he'd made the first move. Wouldn't he look like a gentleman if he went back on his words? Helpless, Jiang Wen could only shake hands with Lin Yi with a bitter face. Lin Yi, Meng Yao's follower. Lin Yi introduced himself faintly. Chapter 263. See who dies first, ha. Jiang Wen smiled darkly as he grabbed a chair and sat down beside the 3. May I know what your position is, Mr. Lin? Oh, didn't I tell you? I'm a follower. Lin Yi smiled. What about you? What the fuck? Jiang Wen wanted to curse at him. He took Lin Yi's words as a provocation and disdain. Even if you were Meng Yao's boyfriend, you didn't have to show off like that, did you? Not to mention that he wasn't even acknowledged by Peng Zhan. As far as Jiang Wen was concerned, Peng Zhan would never approve of Lin Yi. He didn't know what kind of bullshit luck the kid had, getting Meng Yao's attention. Lin Yi's, what about you? Ignited Jiang Wen's anger. This made Jiang Wen's heart even angrier. Back then, The 4 young masters of Pine Mountain were so glorious. Who didn't know about them? 5 years of going their separate ways had made the youngsters of Songshan forget about the 4 young masters of Songshan. And now someone was asking Jiangwen what he did for a living. I just came back from studying abroad, and I'm planning to invest in a company, Jiangwen said faintly, a hint of arrogance in his voice. Oh, a company is good. I'm planning to open one as well, Linny said casually. A flash of anger appeared on Jiangwen's face. Opening a company as well? Do you think opening a company is as easy as playing house? Opening a company? Do you even have the capital? Oh, then what company are you planning to open, Mr. Lin? Jiangwen's tone was mocking. I haven't decided yet. It wasn't that Linny hadn't thought about it, but he didn't want to tell Jiangwen about it. Opening a medicine company was something Linny had decided on a long time ago. Haha, all right. Just let me know if you want to open a company, Mr. Lin. For Lil Sis Yao Yao's sake, I'll help as much as I can, Jiangwen said sincerely. You help? That'd be the end of it, wouldn't it? Linny curled his lips, not believing that Jiangwen had any good intentions. With that, Jiangwen stood up and left. There was no point in continuing this conversation with Lin Yi. He wanted to go back and investigate Lin Yi's background in detail. Know yourself and know your enemy. That's how you win every battle. This was Jiangwen's motto. He hadn't even taken 2 steps when Jiangwen clutched at his abdomen, his breathing quickening as beads of sweat rolled down his face. He wanted to say something, but before he could, he fell to the ground, his muscles twitching rhythmically as his face turned purple, and he started foaming at the mouth. Jiangwen bro. Meng Yao paused before rushing over worriedly. The 2 men with Jiangwen came running over as well. Call the ambulance. The man in the white shirt evidently knew about Jiangwen's situation. He was nervous, but he didn't panic. The man with the feminine face, on the other hand, took out his phone and called the emergency center. Meng Yao said quickly when the man in the white shirt came over. Tai Zhao bro, Jiangwen bro's condition. Where's the owner? Where's the owner of the restaurant? Get your ass out here. Someone's been poisoned. The man in the white shirt was Su Tai Zhao, one of the Songshan 4. A slightly plump man walked out from behind the counter, shaking as he looked at Tai Zhao fearfully. Mister, this mister might not be poisoned, right? Why not? I told you not to put coriander and celery in the food, didn't you? Tai Zhao glared at the owner. If anything happens to an bro, I'll make sure your restaurant closes. I didn't. I asked the kitchen, and they didn't put those things in the food. The owner said carefully. There's no coriander or celery in the food. The owner isn't lying. Lin Yi, on the other hand, had already walked over to the table Jiangwen was at earlier, checking the food they'd eaten. But there's some chrysanthemum in this vegetable soup. If I'm not wrong, Jiangwen should be allergic to vegetables like this. It'll cause seizures if he eats it. Chrysanthemum? Tai Zhao paused at Lin Yi's words. There's chrysanthemum in the soup? Yeah, we do have chrysanthemum. The owner nodded. We always add chrysanthemum in our soup. It helps with the summer heat. Tai Zhao frowned. Why didn't you say so earlier? But he knew that it wasn't the owner's fault. He didn't mention it when he ordered the food, but in the north, chrysanthemum was rarely used in soups, unlike celery and coriander. Tai Zhao didn't think too much about it, but who knew that there really was chrysanthemum in the soup? With that, Lin Yi walked back to his seat, ready to eat his fast food. The reason why he went to check was because he didn't have a good impression of Jiangwen, and he didn't want the owner to be dragged into this. The restaurant owner looked at Lin Yi gratefully. If Lin Yi hadn't discovered the problem in time, he wouldn't have been able to continue his business in peace if someone had accused him of food poisoning. Lin Yi, can you save Jiangwen, bro? Meng Yao knew that Jiangwen and Lin Yi were at loggerheads, but Jiangwen was still her big brother since childhood, and they had a good relationship. If something really happened to Jiangwen in front of her, Meng Yao wouldn't be able to live with her conscience. She heard Lin Yi's accurate diagnosis of Jiangwen's illness and subconsciously put her hopes on Lin Yi. She didn't know when it started, but Lin Yi beside her had become an omnipotent being, cooking, parking, cleaning up gangsters. Even when Shu was stuck between the bars, she'd go to Lin Yi for help. As long as she had a request, Lin Yi would do it. This made Meng Yao rely on Lin Yi. Oh, I can, but I don't want to. Lin Yi said as he looked at Jiang Wen. You dashed. Tai Zhao was a little pissed off at Lin Yi's words. How can you be like this? Not help? Let me tell you, do you know what Jiang Wen's family does? If they find out that you're not going to help, you'll die. Oh, wait for the ambulance then. He won't die in 10 minutes. Lin Yi looked at Tai Zhao as if he was looking at an idiot. Then I'm not going to help him. Let's see if he dies first, or if I die first. Chapter 264. Chapter 264. Vomit all over his body. Oh, how unlucky. Tai Zhao bro, Jiang Wen bro died because of one sentence you said. Yushu shook her head as she looked at Jiang Wen on the ground. To be honest, Yushu didn't like Jiang Wen as a person. There was always a dark aura around him, especially when he was chasing after her bestie, Yao Yao. Yushu didn't have a good impression of him. She was going to marry the same man as Yao Yao, and if Yao Yao married Jiang Wen, wouldn't she have to marry Jiang Wen as well? Yushu didn't like marrying Jiang Wen, and so it was better if Jiang Wen died. Yao Yao couldn't marry a dead man. Although, Yushu didn't think that Yao Yao would be stupid enough to marry Jiang Wen. The two were childhood sweethearts, and Jiang Wen was obviously interested in Yao Yao. What if Uncle Chu got hot-headed and married Yao Yao off? As a result, Yushu was overjoyed to see Jiang Wen about to die, but innocently pushed all the blame onto Tai Zhao. Shu, don't talk nonsense. Mengyao didn't know if she should cry or laugh. Her bestie always did funny things in times of crisis. Mengyao knew what Yushu was thinking, and naturally, Mengyao didn't like Jiang Wen. She only had brotherly feelings for Jiang Wen, nothing else. But she couldn't let Jiang Wen die in front of her. Putting aside the relationship between her family and Jiang Wen's family, even if her dad didn't blame her, Jiang Wen was still very nice to her when she was young, always tolerating her temper. Mengyao didn't have a brother above her, so she treated Chen Yutian and Jiang Wen as her own brothers. I'm not talking nonsense. Tai Zhao bro killed Jiang Wen bro. Yushu said seriously. I know, Tai Zhao bro must still hate Jiang Wen bro, and that's why he's trying to kill him. Why else would he stop Shield bro from saving him? Yushu wanted the world to be in chaos. It was Lin Yi who didn't want to save him, and Tai Zhao had said something he shouldn't have, but now it was Tai Zhao trying to kill Jiang Wen. Shu, what are you talking about? Why would I hate brethren? Tai Zhao knew Yushu's personality, and he knew that he couldn't afford to piss her off. He was pissed, but he had to defend himself. Because bro stole your girlfriend? Yushu giggled. Tai Zhao's face darkened as Yushu hit the nail on the head, but he quickly got his emotions under control. I've forgotten what happened in school a long time ago. I don't hold grudges or anything. Brother Tai Zhao, little Shu, let's not talk about this anymore. Mengyao looked worriedly at Jiang Wen, who was breathing faster and faster. She turned to Lin Yi. Lin Yi, can you please save him? Is this my job? Lin Yi asked. Yeah. Mengyao hesitated. It's a personal request, all right? Lin Yi didn't want to stick his nose into other people's business, but since Mengyao was begging him, Lin Yi couldn't say no. If Mengyao were to say that it was her job and that she had to do it, Lin Yi might have resisted a little. But since Mengyao said that it was a personal request, he had no choice but to do it. Lin Yi came to Jiang Wen's side unwillingly, opening his eyelids to take a look. Hey, help me hold him up. All right. Tai Zhao didn't know what Lin Yi was doing, but since Lin Yi was able to pinpoint the cause of Jiang Wen's illness, and Mengyao was asking him to save Jiang Wen, he could only place his hopes on Lin Yi. It had been 10 minutes now, and there was still no sound of an ambulance. It was just as Lin Yi said, Jiang Wen might have hung up before the ambulance even arrived. Tai Zhao helped Jiang Wen up, and Lin Yi started pressing on a couple of acupoints on his back. Mengyao and Yushu stood in front of Jiang Wen, nervous and curious. Stay away, Lin Yi said as he looked at Mengyao and Yushu. Oh. Mengyao and Yushu didn't know what was going on, but since Lin Yi had given the order, they moved to the side. What about me? Tai Zhao didn't know if Lin Yi wanted him to move away as well. He'll fall to the ground the moment you leave. Lin Yi rolled his eyes. You don't mind him, do you? I don't mind him. Tai Zhao blinked, confused. He thought that Lin Yi was asking if he'd mind him holding Jiang Wen like this. What? As soon as Tai Zhao's words left his mouth, Jiang Wen spat out all the food he'd been eating, splashing everywhere. But the tragic thing was that Tai Zhao, who was supporting Jiang Wen, got sprayed all over him, his face and head covered in Jiang Wen's vomit. Tai Zhao's expression froze. He wanted to let go and run away, but he forced himself to hold back. Su bro. The feminine-looking man was evidently Tai Zhao's follower. He quickly handed Tai Zhao a napkin when he saw the vomit all over him. Tai Zhao was disgusted, but he waved his hand anyway. Jiang Wen's eyes were moving, and this meant that Jiang Wen was about to wake up. Tai Zhao, naturally, couldn't just wipe Jiang Wen's face when he woke up. And bro, how do you feel? Tai Zhao, I'm much better. Jiang Wen was weak, but he could still form a complete sentence. Lin Yi let go of his hand and stood up, not even looking at Jiang Wen. You're not going to die. You'll just have to pump your stomach later. A complicated look flashed across Jiang Wen's face. Naturally, he knew that Lin Yi had saved him, and he was just feeling uncomfortable, not unconscious. As a love rival of Lin Yi, Jiang Wen didn't feel good at all. He would have died if Lin Yi hadn't saved him, but he couldn't lower his head to Lin Yi and give up on Meng Yao. He hesitated for a while before weakly spitting out a few words to Lin Yi. Mr. Lin, thank you. I'll remember what you did today. I'll repay you in the future. No need. I don't need you to do anything. Lin Yi waved his hand, not interested in Jiang Wen's repayment at all. Chapter 265. Chapter 265. Change of impression. Although the restaurant was vomited all over the floor, the restaurant owner had no complaints. As long as this person didn't die here, it would be a great fortune. Otherwise, even if it wasn't because of him, the restaurant would absolutely not be able to continue operating if someone died from eating. No matter what, I still have to thank you. I, Jiang Wen, don't like to owe people favors. I'll return the favor today. Jiang Wen didn't mind what Lin Yi was saying. The two were enemies before, and the only reason Lin Yi was willing to help was because of Meng Yao. Jiang Wen knew that very well. He looked at Meng Yao gratefully. Yao Yao, bro, Jiang Wen didn't treat you well for nothing. As for Yushu, Jiang Wen had nothing to say. That was just how the girl was, messing with whoever she didn't like. Jiang Wen didn't know what he'd done to piss her off, but she never liked him at all. It's nothing as long as you're fine. Meng Yao breathed out in relief after seeing that Jiang Wen wasn't in danger. But you should still do what Lin Yi said and pump your stomach. You'll be fine that way. Unknowingly, Meng Yao had started treating Lin Yi as her encyclopedia. She didn't know when Lin Yi's words had started affecting her deeply. Of course. Jiang Wen smiled, his heart aching. Meng Yao used to listen to him like this, treating her big brother's words like the truth. She'd fight whoever dared to argue with her. But now another man had appeared in her life. Jiang Wen wasn't willing to accept it. He thought that he'd be able to officially ask Meng Yao out when he got back from studying abroad, but Meng Yao had just started university. According to House Chu's teachings, there was no way they'd let Meng Yao get into a relationship that early. As a result, Jiang Wen returned to Songshan full of confidence. He didn't even ask about Meng Yao's situation beforehand, nor did he rush to visit her. Instead, he went to Tai Zhao, one of the 4 young masters of Songshan, to catch up. He didn't think that he'd run into Meng Yao in the amusement park's restaurant, only to find out that she was already taken. Her man, on the other hand, looked extremely ordinary. Just when Jiang Wen was wondering if there was something wrong with Meng Yao's taste, and why she'd chosen a poor kid as her lover, Lin Yi's move completely changed his mind. He'd only taken one look at the soup he'd drunk, and he'd been able to determine the cause of his illness. He'd just massaged his back a couple times, and he'd spit out all the food he'd eaten. Was that something a normal person could do? After hearing the conversation between Meng Yao and Lin Yi, Jiang Wen was even more certain that he'd made a mistake. Lin Yi wasn't as simple as he looked. Lin Yi, can you save Jiang Wen, bro? Oh, I can, but I don't want to. These few simple sentences were enough to prove that Lin Yi's abilities weren't limited to this. Perhaps even more. After all, saving someone was as easy as lifting a finger. Jiang Wen couldn't help but re-evaluate his opponent's level. This was the first time he'd taken this rival in love seriously. All he'd had before was mockery, disdain, and confidence. The ambulance's siren rang out. Even at an amusement park, ambulances were able to pass through without any obstructions. It was just that the distance from the hospital to the amusement park wasn't that short, and so the ambulance had only just arrived when Jiang Wen was saved. A couple of medical staff walked in quickly. "Where's the patient?" "Over here." Tai Zhao quickly waved at the medical staff. "He's allergic to food. He's vomited it out already. He needs to have his stomach pumped." "All right, are you the patient's family?" The medical staff prepared to put Jiang Wen on a stretcher, but Jiang Wen waved his hand, indicating that he could walk. He didn't want to lose face in front of Meng Yao and his love rival, no matter how painful it was. "I'm his friend," Tai Zhao said to the medical staff. "No need for the stretcher. I'll hold him." Jiang Wen walked out of the restaurant with Tai Zhao's support, and the restaurant owner had the waiters clean up the mess Jiang Wen had vomited. Even so, most of the customers chose to leave. After all, the scene just now was too disgusting. Meng Yao and Yushu had lost their appetites as well. They were about to tell Lin Yi to leave when they raised their heads to see Lin Yi eating at the table. Meng Yao didn't know what to say. Wasn't that disgusting? In fact, it wasn't even disgusting to Lin Yi at all. It was much more disgusting than that, and he still had to eat. The restaurant owner, on the other hand, felt a little embarrassed as he refunded Lin Yi's money. Lin Yi had solved a huge problem for him, and Meng Yao and Yushu couldn't eat anymore. The owner felt bad. Surprisingly, Meng Yao didn't scold Lin Yi after seeing him enjoying his food. She just sat there quietly, waiting for him to finish. She couldn't see through this man anymore. He seemed to know nothing, and yet he seemed to know everything at the same time. He seemed to be a shameless pervert, but he also seemed to be someone with strong principles. Meng Yao wasn't stupid, actually. She wouldn't have been able to stay in the top 10 of Songshan's first school otherwise. She'd been against it when her father had sent Lin Yi to her, and she'd even been a little annoyed. She didn't understand what her father was doing with a migrant worker. But after spending some time with him, Meng Yao realized that Lin Yi really was a capable man. She didn't want to admit it, but she slowly accepted it. "You two aren't eating anymore? I'll eat all of them," Lin Yi said as he looked at the other two fast food boxes on the table. "You eat all of them?" Meng Yao nodded. Lin Yi gobbled down the other 2 plates of fast food like a whirlwind. "Wow, Shield bro, you're amazing," Yushu said as she looked at the 3 empty boxes. "Let's go bungee jumping after eating." Meng Yao evidently wasn't affected by what happened earlier. It was just her appetite that was affected. Jiang Wen gave her a very unfamiliar feeling this time, especially after the hostility he showed towards Lin Yi. Meng Yao couldn't help but feel a little disgusted by him. His image as the big brother next door collapsed. Huh. Okay. Lin Yi, Meng Yao, and Yushu made their way to the restaurant's entrance, but Lin Yi shot a meaningful glance at a young man with a face as swollen as a steamed bun. Lin Yi smiled faintly before turning around to leave. Chapter 266. Chapter 266. Plan again, I got it, Yuchu said with a dark face. His internal organs were still hurting, and while Yushu wasn't heavy, that stomp on his stomach a couple of times wasn't something anyone would feel good about. Maoshing's face was as black as it could be. There was a bandage on the back of his head from where Yuchu's leather shoe had hit him. Maoshing regretted his impulsiveness. He wouldn't have ended up like this if he hadn't come up with such a stupid idea in the heat of the moment. Maoshing's plan was doable as a whole, but he'd chosen the wrong place and target. If it had been just Meng Yao alone, his plan might have worked, since she wasn't as brave as Yushu. But he'd chosen to do it when Meng Yao was with Yushu and Lin Yi, reducing the effect of his plan by half. The worst part was that he'd chosen the wrong place. Pretending to be a ghost in a haunted house was scary, but it was a haunted house, and it gave the people inside the house the impression that it was a haunted house, and that the ghosts inside were all fake. If Mao Sheng were to go scare Meng Yao at night with no one around, he'd probably scare Meng Yao to death. Scaring people to death. These words were not just empty words. There was a precedent for this. After all, there'd been a newspaper article about a psychotic high school student who liked to go out at night to scare people, and he'd really scared a couple of people to death. Mao Sheng would have thought about the feasibility of this plan under normal circumstances, since he was a cautious person. But time was of the essence today, and Yu Chu was fanning the flames as well. That was why Mao Sheng had made such a grave mistake. People were afraid of being hot-headed, and even more afraid of having someone else who was just as hot-headed as them supporting them. Even the smartest person would make mistakes under these circumstances. Many criminals did things that they'd regret for the rest of their lives under the instigation of their accomplices. Didn't they know the consequences of their crimes? No. Therefore, today's matter was based on this principle. This seemingly reasonable but actually unreasonable plan was only able to be carried out with the support and approval of Zhang Yuzhou. Yu Chu's only thought was to take care of Meng Yao as soon as possible, throwing Peng Zhan into confusion so that he could give Master Bing a big present. He was in a rush to make a contribution. Mao Sheng, on the other hand, wanted to settle things with Meng Yao as soon as possible so that his family could take over Peng Zhan Industries. Time waited for no man, and he'd act on impulse. Now that they'd calmed down, Mao Sheng and Yu Chu realized how laughable and flawed their plan had been. They tried to use a newspaper report, but they'd ended up going for wool and coming home shorn. They'd shot themselves in the foot, and now they were covered in wounds. "Jean bro, they're going bungee jumping. What do we do?" Yu Chu asked as he turned to Mao Sheng. "This time, I must think of a way to kill him in one strike. I can't act rashly anymore. I was too careless." Mao Sheng said hatefully. "All right, Jean bro, I'm responsible for this as well," Yu Chu said with a wave of his hand. Guan Yu was one of the 5 tiger generals back in the Three Kingdoms period, and even he lost Jingzhou because of his carelessness. "We underestimated our enemy." "Yeah, you're right." Mao Sheng's mood lightened up quite a bit after hearing Yu Chu's words. Even Guan Yu lost Jingzhou because of his carelessness, so what if he made a mistake? "Jianbro, I think that bungee jumping is a good chance for us to kill Meng Yao," Yu Chu said with a chuckle. He'd gotten rid of Meng Yao because he wanted to get Peng Zhan Industries' real estate company and get on Master Bing's good side, but now he was filled with hatred and rage. If it weren't for Meng Yao, his intestines would have been stomped out of his stomach. Yu Chu wouldn't be able to take this lying down if he didn't get his revenge. "Oh? What do you mean?" Mao Sheng didn't dare make a rash decision this time. He needed to think carefully before deciding on the feasibility of the plan. "Jean bro, if there's an accident during the bungee jumping, like the rope snapping, no one would think it was murder, and that's easier to pull off, isn't it?" Yu Chu said with a chuckle. "Yeah, if the rope snaps during the bungee jumping, that's a good idea." Mao Sheng nodded. He had to admit that Yu Chu's suggestion was quite constructive. If there was an accident during the bungee jumping, the possibility of being suspected was lower, and even if there was suspicion, it wouldn't be easy to find evidence. As long as it was handled properly, most of the evidence could be removed, and the result would only be the suspension of the bungee jumping program. It wouldn't have much of an impact on the company, and Mao Sheng didn't care at all. "Yeah, we just need to figure out when Meng Yao's going to jump, and we'll give her a rope that's been tampered with. There's the ocean at the bottom of the valley, and she'll be washed away by the waves if she falls in. We just need to delay the rescue a little longer, and Meng Yao's basically dead," Yu Chu said. "It's less risky and easier as well." "Yeah, bungee jumping. How about this? I'll give Manager Zhang a call and have him talk to Ma directly. The two of us won't show up." Mao Sheng's head was wrapped in bandages, and he didn't want to go out and embarrass himself. In fact, he was a little too eye-catching right now. He'd attract a lot of attention if he went out, and he didn't want Meng Yao and Yu Shu to get suspicious. He didn't have many chances to meet Meng Yao, but they'd seen each other a couple of times at banquets, and Mao Sheng was afraid that Meng Yao would recognize him. Mao Sheng called Manager Zhang, since he'd been the one in charge of the haunted house. He didn't ask too many questions, and contacted Ma to prepare the next step of the plan. Manager Zhang was a direct descendant of House Jin, and through Gubong's protection in the company, he'd gotten quite a bit of money from the amusement park. Naturally, most of the money ended up in House Jin's pockets, but Manager Zhang had gotten quite a bit of it for himself. He'd be dead if this got out, and he didn't dare say anything when Mao Sheng asked him to. Therefore, When the mahjong player Zhang Yuzhou told Manager Zhang about his plan, Manager Zhang didn't say anything else and directly brought Ma to the bungee jumping office. Chapter 267. Wait and See bungee jumping is a new and exciting outdoor leisure activity. The jumper stands on a bridge, tower, building, crane, or even a hot air balloon, which is about 40 meters high, which is equivalent to the height of a 10-story building, and ties a long rubber strip at one end to the ankle joint. After that, he stretches out his arms, puts his legs together, and jumps down head first. The rubber strip tied to the jumper's ankle was long enough to allow the jumper to enjoy a few seconds of free fall in the air. When the body was a certain distance from the ground, the rubber rope would be pulled and taut, stopping the body from falling any further. When the body reached the lowest point, the rubber would spring up again, and the person would be pulled up and back down again. This process repeated many times until the elasticity of the rope disappeared. Linny bought 3 tickets, and Ma, the bungee jumper, ran over to Lin Yi's group, thinking that Linny didn't know who he was. Yao Yao, look at this guy's face. It's weird. It's swollen. Yushu said as she looked at Ma's face curiously. I don't know. Maybe someone pinched him. Shu, why do you care about him? Meng Yao said nervously at the thought of bungee jumping. She was a bit more timid than Yushu. She'd been looking forward to bungee jumping because she wanted to vent the unhappiness in her heart, but now that she was actually going to bungee jump, she couldn't help but feel nervous. Oh, Yushu looked at Ma curiously. Your face, it's really weird. Ma rolled his eyes inwardly. Weird? Wasn't it because you pinched him? And you're calling me weird? But on the surface, Ma could only smile apologetically. I was born like this, haha. 3 of you, please come with me to sign the agreement and take your weight and blood pressure. Before bungee jumping, the participants had to sign a safety agreement, stating that they didn't have any diseases like heart disease or myopia. The theme park wouldn't be responsible for any accidents caused by hiding their condition. Then there was the insurance, which was included in the price of the tickets. Since Ma wanted to kill Meng Yao in the first place, he didn't pay much attention to the blood pressure and weight measurements. He just waved his hand to indicate that there were no problems. All right, that's enough. Who wants to go first? Little Mahjong put away the signed agreement and asked, Yao Yao, you go first. I'll let you have the first time. Yushu giggled as she looked at Meng Yao. We agreed on it. Good my ass. Meng Yao glared at Yushu, but said faintly, fine, I'll go first. What the two agreed on wasn't bungee jumping, but the promise of marrying the same man. Meng Yao was the older sister. Of course, he'd let her have the wedding night, but this was something she could talk about when she was younger. But now that she was older, Meng Yao felt a little embarrassed. Ma was overjoyed when he heard Meng Yao's words. Meng Yao went bungee jumping first. It'd be much easier for him. Please follow me. Meng Yao and Yushu walked in front with Lin Yi at the back. Lin Yi didn't know if he should expose Ma's identity or pretend not to know. Lin Yi didn't know how Pingzhan's arrangements were going, so he didn't want to alert the enemy. After some hesitation, he dialed up Faubert's number. Lin Yi wanted to see what Faubert had to say. Faubert, it's Lin Yi. I'm at the theme park, and there's someone trying to harm Miss Chu. Should I expose him, or? Lin Yi said softly. Hold on, I'll ask Mr. Chu. Faubert said, and the phone went silent. After a while, Faubert's voice came through again. Mr. Lin, I've talked to Mr. Chu. He said that it's best if you don't alert the enemy. He's in the middle of setting up a trap, and he's worried that the enemy might do something desperate if you alert them. I understand. I'll wait and see. Lin Yi nodded. Of course, this is under the premise that Yao Yao's safety is guaranteed. If someone threatens Yao Yao's safety, please don't hold back, Mr. Lin. Faubert added. Of course, I'll protect Yao Yao and Shu. But Faubert, if you have time, it's best if you come to the theme park as well. I want to follow them after this and see who's behind them. Lin Yi said. All right, I'll head over now. I'll drive fast, and I'll be there in about 20 minutes. Where are you at the theme park? Faubert asked. Bungee jumping here. Lin Yi said. Okay, I'll be right there. After hanging up the phone with Faubert, Lin Yi quickly followed up. He acted as if he was just answering a call from a friend. Someone at Ma's level didn't notice anything wrong at all. As far as he was concerned, Lin Yi didn't know that he was the faceless man in the haunted house yet. Lin Yi followed, only to see that Meng Yao was already tying the rope around her body under Ma's guidance. Lin Yi frowned. He wanted to stop her, but he remembered Faubert's words. He hesitated. Peng Zhan didn't want him to alert the enemy, but what if these people did something to Meng Yao while she was bungee jumping? It'd be too late, even if Lin Yi wanted to save Meng Yao. The best way was for Lin Yi and Meng Yao to bungee jump together. That would reduce the risk to the lowest, but would Meng Yao agree to it if the two of them were tied together? Just as Lin Yi was thinking about his next move, Meng Yao looked at the waves at the bottom of the cliff. She was a little scared. I want to get ready. Ma didn't want to drag it out, but he couldn't do anything about it. The rope was tampered with, and only Meng Yao could use it. Other tourists couldn't use it. Ma was reluctant, but he could only smile. Then get ready. But it's not a big deal. It's your first time bungee jumping. You'd be scared. You just close your eyes and go down, and when you open your eyes again, you'll see the world before you. Ma had bungee jumped before, so he was able to make sense of the situation. Meng Yao didn't suspect anything, but Lin Yi had seen through it a long time ago. He couldn't help but find it funny. Meng Yao's cowardice gave Lin Yi time to react. He walked to Meng Yao's side and picked up the rope Meng Yao was hanging from, wanting to take a closer look at it. Chapter 268. Running away. Ma was just fretting about not having a place to blame if something went wrong, and Lin Yi gave him the chance to push the blame onto Lin Yi. I'm just looking around. What's there to be nervous about? Lin Yi smiled faintly as he put the rope back. Faubert had told him not to alert the enemy, and Lin Yi naturally wouldn't start a fight with Ma right now. But the longer Meng Yao dragged things out, the more time Faubert would have. Lin Yi, on the other hand, hoped that Meng Yao could rest a little longer. Are you done resting? Ma was starting to panic. Miss, there's a time limit to this bungee jumping. If you stop here, the people behind you won't be able to continue, right? There's a lot of rope tracks, but what if there's too many people? Then, I'll try again. Meng Yao was like everyone else who'd gone bungee jumping for the first time. She stood up impatiently under Ma's urging. It's nothing, really. Just close your eyes and it'll be over. Ma cackled in his heart. You'll die if you don't open your eyes. Oh, Meng Yao nodded as if she'd made up her mind. She walked to the edge of the cliff and looked down, feeling a little dizzy. She couldn't help but close her eyes. When she opened them again, her heart was filled with fear. No, I'm still scared. I need to get ready. Ma was helpless. He wanted nothing more than to kick Meng Yao off the cliff and save his time. But he didn't dare do that in front of so many people. The rope breaking was an accident, but if he pushed Meng Yao down, it'd be murder. Ma wasn't an idiot. There were a lot of people around, and Lin Yi and Yushu were watching as well. There was no way he'd do something like that. Miss, aren't you just wasting time? Ma said, displeased. Shu, maybe you go first? I'm a little scared. Let me get ready. Meng Yao went back to the bench she was resting on and sat down again. Oh, let me go first? Yao, you're giving your first time to me? Yushu blinked excitedly. Don't overthink it. I'm talking about bungee jumping. Meng Yao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Bungee jumping is fine too. Yushu nodded. All right, I'll go first then. Hey, you, puffy face, put the rope on me. I'll go first. Bulging face? Ma almost cried at the way Yushu called him. What puffy face? Wasn't it all because of you? My face was almost ripped off, and you still dare to say that I have a bulging face? How could you bully others like that? That's a little troublesome. I've already tied her up. Ma, naturally, didn't want to give the rope to Yushu. His target was Meng Yao. After all, Yushu dying wouldn't achieve the desired effect, and might even cause the opposite effect. Aya, why are you taking so long? I'll do it myself if you think it's too much trouble. Yushu said with a wave of her hand. Do it yourself. Why don't you go to the other cableways? Ma said, trying to stop Yushu. What for? There are other cableways, don't you see? Wouldn't I have to wait for half a day? It's easier to change the rope, Yushu said, not listening to Ma at all. Then, I'll ask for instructions. You know, I'm just a worker, and what you're doing is against the rules. My boss is gonna scold me if he sees this. Ma had no choice but to bring up his lowly status. All right, just ask for instructions then. Yushu was getting impatient, but didn't make things difficult for Ma. As far as she was concerned, there was no need to make things difficult for a lowly worker like him. Naturally, Yushu wouldn't insist. All right, I'll ask for instructions now. Ma took out his phone and was about to make the call when Yushu spoke again. Shield bro, I'm a little scared too. Why don't we jump together? Yushu looked down the cliff. It really was quite scary. She wasn't sure if she'd run away just like Mingyao. Jump together? Linny blinked, feeling a little tempted. Of course, it wasn't because he'd be able to get close to Yushu, but because he didn't want Yushu to jump down on her own. Linny had been thinking about how he could make Yushu give up on the bungee jumping when Yushu wanted to switch with Mingyao. The Jade had been giving him warnings a couple of times already, and while the warning signal was weak, indicating that it wasn't that dangerous, he was sure that there was something wrong with this bungee jumping. It wasn't too dangerous for him, but it was hard to say for Yushu. He was worried that Yushu would jump down on her own, but Yushu suggested jumping down with him just as he was worrying about it. Yeah, we'll tie ourselves to the same rope and jump down together. That way I won't be scared anymore. All right, shield bro? Yushu was actually scared as well. She was a little braver than Mingyao, but who wouldn't be scared of a girl jumping down from a cliff like this? Especially since it was her first time jumping down. How could she not be scared? Only that Tigress Lingshan wouldn't be scared after her first jump, Yushu thought. She didn't think it was embarrassing at all. No. Mingyao frowned at Yushu's suggestion. Shu, wouldn't tying yourself to him be letting him take advantage of you? Ah, take advantage of me? Yushu didn't think too much about it before, but she didn't think much of it after hearing Mengyao's words. Didn't he do it at home before? It's not a big deal to do it again, right? Yao Yao, I really don't dare jump down on my own. Why don't you jump with shield bro? You do it then. Mingyao himphed, thinking that her best friend was really retarded. What was wrong with taking advantage of her one more time? Would she get used to it after doing it again and again? But Mingyao regretted it a little after saying it. She was actually looking forward to jumping down with Lin Yi. She wouldn't be scared with him by her side, would she? Mingyao thought back to the time they met the robbers at the bank. With Lin Yi by her side, Mingyao felt really safe and secure. Shield bro, don't you dare take advantage of me, Yushu said with a smile, not pushing it away. Chapter 269. The two jumped together. Ma was just going to pretend that he was making a phone call and reject Mengyao's request, but Yushu's request to bungee jump with Mingyao made him think of something else. This man seemed to be one of the boss's troubles. If he could kill this man this time, it would not be a waste of his efforts. Thinking of this, Xiao Ma did not dare to act on his own. He called Zhang Yuzhou. Yuchu bro, something's happened, Ma said in a hushed voice. Oh? What's wrong now? Yuchu's heart tightened. The plan couldn't have failed again, could it? Mingyao was ready to bungee jump with the rope already, but she suddenly got scared and didn't dare jump anymore. Ma said in a hushed voice. Scared? Yuchu frowned. If she really doesn't want to jump, then don't force her. Don't lose the bigger picture. No, Yuchu bro, the problem is that Yushu's planning to jump, and she's using the rope we tampered with before. Yuchu interrupted Ma before he could finish. That's not it, Yuchu bro. It's best if we don't touch that Yushu. It'll cause big problems. Yuchu didn't know what kind of background Yushu had, but he'd heard that even Sihua bro's backer was wary of her. She wasn't someone to be messed with easily. She's going to bungee jump with that Lin Yi. I think it's an opportunity. Ma said. Lin Yi bungee jump with her? Wait. Yuchu was a little tempted, but he couldn't make the decision on his own. He needed to discuss it with Maosheng first. Putting the phone aside, Yuchu repeated Ma's words to Mao Sheng. Mao Sheng hesitated for a moment before gritting his teeth. Do it. Yushu's death would cause trouble, but it was an accident in Pengzhan's theme park. With the Qin's and Chu's relationship, they wouldn't hold a grudge against Yushu. At most, they'd just push out a scapegoat. But now that Lin Yi's dead, it'll be much easier for us to deal with Meng Yao next time. Yuchu nodded, relaying Mao Sheng's message to Ma, who, naturally, wouldn't stop Yushu from bungee jumping with the approval of the two bosses. Instead, he guided Yushu and Lin Yi together. Finally done. But shield bro, this rope's too tight. I'm having trouble breathing, Yushu said with a deep breath. Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat as he felt the softness of Yushu's chest, and his body started reacting a little. Lin Yi was just an 18-year-old boy, after all, and it was only natural that he'd be moved by the idea of being tied up so intimately with a girl, especially a beautiful girl with a good figure. And it wasn't that Lin Yi didn't like her, at least he had a good impression of her. So, it was normal for him to have a reaction. Lin Yi was a little awkward. He was about to explain when Yushu spoke up. Shield bro, what's that? Is it killing me? Ugh. Lin Yi blinked as he looked at Yushu's innocent face. He didn't know what to say. What's wrong? Yushu looked at Lin Yi, puzzled. She understood what was going on in the next moment. Yushu wasn't an ignorant girl. After all, she'd been in health classes before. Her face reddened a little as she shifted unnaturally, whispering threateningly. Shield bro, are you having some unhealthy thoughts? Yushu would have been fine if she hadn't moved, but now that she'd moved, Lin Yi's reaction intensified. Yushu's words were like a fuse. Was that a threat? Why did it sound like she was acting coquettishly? But Lin Yi was still very strong. It only took him a split second to recover. He knew that this was how Yushu usually talked to himself. She wasn't trying to seduce him or anything like that. And he was flirting with her best friend in front of the Mississippi. Wasn't that suicidal? He looked at Meng Yao, who was at the side, and saw that her face was dark. He quickly turned his head away innocently, but the rope around his waist really couldn't be moved. It was supposed to be tied to one person, but with two people tied to it, there wasn't much space left. Remembering that he was on a mission, Lin Yi suppressed the fire of lust in his heart and didn't do anything further. His body's reaction started to return to normal as well. A mission was a mission. Lin Yi was very clear about that. He couldn't get involved with his employer. That was a big taboo in the industry. Back then with Ning, with that in mind, Lin Yi's heart grew heavy once more. Even with Yushu in his arms, Lin Yi didn't have the same impulsiveness as before. This was the last mission. He hoped that he'd be able to complete it smoothly. That way, he wouldn't have to be bound by the rules of the industry anymore. Are you ready? Ma didn't have time to watch Lin Yi and Yushu flirt with each other. He had to get rid of the two as soon as possible and report back to the boss. All right, can we jump now? Yushu wasn't as scared as before with Lin Yi by her side. She looked down the cliff and grabbed Lin Yi's arm. Shield bro, you have to hug me later, but don't take advantage of me. Okay. Lin Yi nodded. Lin Yi would have done it even if Yushu hadn't said it. The jade was ringing once more. There was definitely something wrong with the rope. Why wasn't Faubert here yet? Lin Yi didn't want to alert the enemy, but he didn't want to just jump off like that. The rope would break. And while it'd give Pengzhan an excuse to reorganize the company, jumping into the sea wasn't a good feeling either. Naturally, Ma didn't think that the two would be able to make it out alive after jumping into the sea. Both of them were tied up with ropes, and they couldn't swim at all. Wouldn't they die if no one came to rescue them if they fell into the turbulent water? Ready? Can we jump now? Ma said. I'll count to 3, and you two jump together. Wait. Lin Yi made a hand gesture, cutting Ma off. Is there anything else? Ma frowned, displeased. Lin Yi ignored him and pulled Yushu over to Meng Yao's side. Chapter 270. Chapter 270. Something happened. Lin Yi walked up to Meng Yao, lowering his head and putting his lips next to Meng Yao's ear. Wah. What are you doing? Meng Yao jumped in fright. Lin Yi's actions were a little ambiguous, especially when his breath was right beside her ear. It gave Meng Yao a weird feeling. Meng Yao subconsciously turned her head to the side, a little annoyed. Wasn't it enough that the guy was messing with her best friend? Was he messing with her now? Faubert will be here soon. Don't panic if something happens to me and Shu later. Don't move. Just wait here for Faubert. Lin Yi didn't answer Meng Yao's question, instead quickly whispering into her ear. HM? Meng Yao blinked. She was just about to ask Lin Yi what was going on when Lin Yi stood up and smiled at her before walking to the edge of the bungee jumping platform with Yushu. Peng Zhan had told Lin Yi to wait and see, not wanting to fall out with Gubong so soon. There were still a lot of things in the company that hadn't been completed yet, and Gubong still had a lot of power in his hands. Falling out with him now would only make him more desperate. But Peng Zhan never would have guessed that these people were trying to kill Meng Yao. He wouldn't have let Lin Yi jump in if he'd known that it would be dangerous, even if he had to go all out with them. But Lin Yi didn't really mind. He wouldn't die even if he did, and Peng Zhan could use this as an excuse to reorganize the company. An accident at an amusement park wasn't a small thing. It was just an accident at best, but the amusement park was Gubong's business. Gubong wouldn't be able to escape the blame if something happened to the amusement park. We can start now, Lin Yi said to Ma. All right, I'll count to 3, and you guys jump. It's no big deal, just close your eyes at first, Ma said to Lin Yi and Yushu in a very professional manner. Lin Yi nodded. Bungee jumping. It wasn't exciting at all for him. Jumping off cliffs and into the sea was a common occurrence for Lin Yi, and he was used to it. Yushu, on the other hand, was a little scared. Lin Yi could feel the girl's breathing quickening, a layer of sweat forming on her face. 1, 2, 3, jump. Ma was worried that Yushu would go back on her words again, but he pushed her away, causing her to stumble and fall towards the cliff with Lin Yi. Lin Yi was trying to buy some time for Faubert to come, but he didn't expect Ma to be this impatient. He was such an eyesore, but did the person behind him want him dead that badly? Ma had only pushed Yushu a little, and Lin Yi could have easily stabilized his footing. But that would definitely cause a conflict with Ma, so Lin Yi decided to jump off. The amusement park was a public place, and Lin Yi couldn't just kill Ma even if he were to turn against him. Turning against him would only make the person behind Ma desperate. Lin Yi didn't know the specifics of the mission, but Peng Zhan was his first employer, and he had to be responsible for his employer's plans. Ah! Yushu shrieked as her arms tightened around Lin Yi, forgetting that she had to spread her arms out when bungee jumping. Shu, you're hugging me to death. Lin Yi was hurting from Yushu's arms. Shield bro, I'm so scared. Ah! Yushu yelled as she fell downwards, finally reaching the end of the rope. The two of them paused for a moment before bouncing up with the help of the rope's elasticity. It's okay, you can open your eyes now, Lin Yi said, thinking that Ma would definitely do something to the rope, and he and Yushu would fall into the sea. He'd wanted to find a place to land on the cliffside, but the cliffside was too slippery. They'd probably smoothed out the edges of the cliffside for the purpose of bungee jumping, in case the tourists got hurt. Meng Yao stared blankly at the empty bungee jumping platform. Lin Yi's words kept replaying in her head. Faubert will be here soon. Don't be nervous if something happens to me and Shu, and don't move. Just wait here for Faubert. Would something happen to him? Why did he say that something would happen to him and Shu? Did he know something? Was he just joking around to scare her? Meng Yao was starting to get frustrated when she heard a commotion from the nearby tourists. The rope broke. Something happened. The man and the woman fell into the sea. Meng Yao was just about to ask when she saw more and more tourists rushing towards them, surrounding the edge of the cliff. Meng Yao quickly stood up and looked towards the direction of the crowd. What she saw shocked her. The rope that was tying Lin Yi and Shu had broken, and only half of it was left in the air. Lin Yi and Shu were nowhere to be found. All of a sudden, Meng Yao's head buzzed. She was dumbfounded. Did something happen to Lin Yi and Yushu? Just like that? Shu. Lin Yi. Meng Yao pushed her way through the crowd, yelling Yushu's and Lin Yi's names at the top of her lungs. Miss, are you a friend of the two who fell in? An old auntie looked at Meng Yao sympathetically. My condolences, miss. I heard that they didn't even show their heads when they fell in. Meng Yao felt like all her energy had been sucked out of her body after hearing the old auntie's words. She stared blankly at the rapid waves below. Tiske. What's wrong with this theme park? Why is it so unsafe? They've been in there for so long, and there's no one to save them. Who's going to come here next time? Yeah, I just bought a ticket. It's lucky that they haven't started jumping yet. Who knows if I'd fallen too. The crowd was talking about Lin Yi and Yushu's bad luck, but no one was willing to jump into the sea to save them. It wasn't that people were too cold-blooded, but they might die before they could save them. Thinking back to what Linny said to her before he jumped, Mingyao suddenly understood. Had Linny sensed the danger? Why else would he tell her not to worry if something happened to him and Shu? You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.